Good evening, everyone. Well, you're not going to hear me the same way you normally do, so let me shout this out. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hyde Park Planning Board meeting. Please take note of the exits around the room.
You don't have to shout into
Oh, that's right. I can just shout to you guys. Sorry. Our speakers are not working tonight, so please take note of the exits around the room and join me as we salute the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Camp Victory Lake. Mr. Sander, welcome back.
Hello, everyone.
I have two rays of sunshine. And this.
It only happens once
That's
a
our
year.
solstice.
That's the solstice. Huh? It only happens once a year on the solstice.
Summer.
We have our little stone.
Wow. It's our own Stonehenge?
Yeah.
You got all my comments, right? What's in here?
Yes, sir.
Even though it's not going to be heard here,
It's in. Got it. Thank you, sir. Alrighty. Hello again, everyone.
Hello.
Been a month since we've last been here. So again, Peter Sander, representing the Northeastern Conference. We have Deanna. We're here tonight to talk about the religious sanctuary structure, our 47,000 square foot religious sanctuary for events. We've been here for quite a few times. I'm sure you guys don't want me to bore you again, but I'll just do a brief summary of what we've done since our last time here. So we've gone through and have addressed the CPL letters. We've addressed Bonnie's letter as well. We've gone through and made minor edits to the site plans, including providing, one of the bigger ones was the culvert crossing detail. We've updated our open air pavilions plan to better reflect based off of me going back out there and remeasuring everything, making sure I didn't miss a corner on those measurements. We added additional plantings and provided additional screening specifications to those plans as well. Overall, we've also nailed down the colors for the structure. That was included in the revised elevations packet, where we're going more of a darker tone. We pitched the idea of doing the same terracotta roof, but the camp wants this more of a darker, earthier tones to the structure. So that's what we're going with. And other than that, I don't really see any other major comments or concerns for the letters. I know we're still waiting on final comments for the SWIP that was prepared for the site. But other than that, I think we've addressed all outstanding comments, and look forward to talking to you guys.
I keep saying this is on. Sorry.
It's so weird.
Oh, it is still on. This is going to take me a moment. So, I want to thank you for your responses. Because we just got these a week beforehand, the day of our agenda meeting, we didn't have a chance to review, so we're not prepared to take action tonight, but we will be shortly, I know. So let me start with Bonnie.
I don't have any comments at this time.
Making a motion to open the public hearing, reopen the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I still don't have any comments at this time.
Mr. Sotero.
I took a quick look at the plans, and so I guess really the only question I had was, at the culvert crossing, where you're going to make the road wider, do you have to, it wasn't clear, are the culverts long enough now?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you're not doing anything with the culverts, you have enough room on the top to widen it, okay.
Correct. Yep. Plenty
Okay.
of space. We can widen it and
Okay.
still have extra culvert to spare.
And then, as Peter said, we will look at the, the SWIP. We're trying to get through the Belfield one first, and then this will be next. So,
I want to make
But
sure
I-
that somebody here in the audience heard that you were working through the Bellafield SWIP.
I didn't hear that.
yeah. So, I mean, most of our other comments have been addressed, so we'll focus on the SWIP. And I don't, maybe you already said it, but how are you making out with the health department?
We're getting our submission all tied up. We want to make sure that everything on the planning board end is squared away. And we're just talking to Deanna again, revised checks, so that's going to be going in very soon.
Okay. This is going to be your first application to the health department, or it's a resubmission?
It's we ran it by them, but it's going to be our first like full-time submission to them.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Moss, comments?
That'll be a condition of approval, right?
Ms. Platero, comments?
I mean, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I was just asking the engineer, normally we would make health department a condition of approval,
Mm-hmm.
but if you haven't had even a conceptual
why I asked.
discussion with them at this point, and there are some changes to the site plan required, does it make sense for you to go make your submission and us hold off? Otherwise, we'd have to go through an amendment process.
Well, there's nothing that we would really amend. It's just we already have the wastewater treatment plant on site. It already has capacity for the structure. It's really more of a procedural where we submit it to the health department and they're okay with how we
Right,
get the sewage to the plant. So nothing's really going to change.
What about, your water system? I forget, did you have to drill any additional wells, or?
No additional wells. There's we have to do some chlorination on that, so we've been working on how best to do that. But that's all. It would be interior. There's nothing really site changes to it.
Okay. I did notice, I'm sorry, I did notice that you were installing a dry hydrant in the lake.
Mhm.
Is that something that you had worked with the fire department on? Is that one of their?
Correct. They
Okay.
had requested the two dry hydrants. I think it was over 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
So we had those installed, and then
Oh,
part of
they're
our,
installed already?
Or no, sorry,
Oh.
planned to be installed.
And that's okay if they
Yeah.
are already, that's fine. I'm just,
No, they're on the site plan to be installed. And then we recently reached out to Ray again for the changes to the cabin
I
location.
saw that, yeah. So he wants you to widen, the
Yeah,
access
so he had us
road.
widen it, which that made total sense. So we did that, and that's reflected in our site plans.
I'm probably just gonna ask you to add like a note, if you just wanna make like a note of it now, on, the dry hydrants, if you could just, note that they'll be installed in, coordination or consultation with the, Roosevelt Fire District. Because they should come out, and look at them while
Yeah.
you're putting them in to make sure they're being put in correctly. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Victoria, any other comments?
No.
We start to my left. Mr. Veith, comments?
No comment.
Mr. Waters?
No comment.
Ms. Wasser?
No comment.
Ms. Dexter?
Same old comment, thank you again for working with us
Of course.
over this period and for addressing everybody's comments.
Mr. Oliver?
Nothing new to add, and thank you very much.
Mr. Garcia?
No comment.
I don't really have any comments either, other than I think that we can consider closing the public hearing tonight and taking action at our next meeting. I'm looking over at the consultants. Victoria, does that sound okay to you? Because we have 60 days in which to take action. Or do you want to just hold it open?
It sounds fine as long as I think we're just down to technical review of the new submission at this point.
I had a chance to review Mr. Sanders' response letter. Everyone is ticked off with changes, or there was inadequate response, in my opinion, sorry, provided. So, Board, are you comfortable with closing the public hearing?
Yeah.
Before I do that, would anyone from the public like to speak about this application this evening? If there are none, then make it a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Guys, we'll see you in about a month, just 2 days short of a full month, on the 19th. We'll have a resolution prepared. If we have any questions or comments in advance, we'll share the resolution with you, et cetera.
Perfect. Yeah.
Sure.
Is there a chance we could get a copy on it before the meeting, just so we could get eyes on it
Potentially.
potentially?
We tried to do that. I will point out that sometimes, like tonight, that we were redoing a resolution at 5:59. So sometime, if we can get it done, we will, but if not, then we'll at least be able to see what you get here, put it that way.
Okay. Perfect. And so then would our next meeting be July?
Sorry.
Let's see. 19th?
Yep.
All right.
So are we closing the public hearing tonight?
We did. We closed it. We did, we voted. You voted yes, you just didn't remember.
And is there anything else that our office needs to provide to the board for
Not that I know
any
of right
reason?
now. Not that I know of right now. This is your new submission. It's
Yep.
pretty detailed, and
We tried.
I'll go through it again, but I mean, when I went through it initially, yesterday morning, I didn't see nothing sprang up to my eyes, so. But if we need anything for technical review, then we'll contact you.
Perfect.
So, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much,
Good to see you
everyone.
guys as always.
Much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
And we will see you next month.
The next item on the agenda is Hyde Park Town Center North. This is Ready Coffee. Making a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? I should add, by the way, I should add my thanks to Vice Chair Dexter, to everybody. I wasn't able to make the last meeting, neither was Stephanie, but I watched him everything, so good job. I do have a couple of items on this application for Ready Coffee. To state that the town cut down the trees is incorrect. You cut down the trees when you put the pocket park in. You didn't put it in your response, but we were told at the time by you guys that when we asked for the trees that were supposed to be located between the pocket park and Route 9, on the east side of Route 9, that you couldn't put them there because of septic. That's not listed as part of the responses, but I believe that should be the response for Heather. Joe, Mr. Berger, isn't there an issue with putting trees along? That's what I thought. Part of the septic system is there, the sand filters, et cetera.
Seepage pits are right alongside.
Seepage pits, that's what I thought. So, but I want to just point out, the trees were not cut down by the town for its sidewalk project, because that just started this year.
And that didn't actually go in front of there.
No. At any rate, but that's what I thought there was a reason why the trees couldn't be put on. Otherwise, Ms. Leibold has responded, you provided responses to DC Planning.
Yes,
Responses to comments heard at the last meeting as well.
yes.
And pretty thorough responses. Let me turn it over to you. Do you guys want to present anything else?
No, I just wanted to summarize and say that we had responded to the questions and comments that were raised at the last meeting. I think the focus had to do with the county planning comments.
Right.
So we did discuss it at the board, and then we articulated those responses for you in writing. I think at this point, we've addressed all of the items that the board and the consultants were looking for, so we're here to answer any questions.
Let me start over with the consultants, as always. Ms. Franson.
So from my prior review, there were just some items that I think we needed final sign-off in terms of the planning board being okay with the design. One was the dumpsters. Everybody good with the dumpster as it's shown at this point?
I want to confirm it's 6 feet tall, the gates and the sidewalls. I saw 5'6", but then I said it was 6 foot complete or 5'6" on the footing. I just had a question on that.
I don't know which version you're on. Did you get the last version?
It's all,
No, it works.
It's
It's
useful.
not internally,
Right.
it's going out, it's broadcasting.
it's 5'6" out of ground. It's 6 feet of block coursing, but it's 5'6" out of ground.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. And the gates also, it's all one height?
Yes.
Okay.
The gates are a couple inches shorter because it's 5'6" to the cap, and the cap's 2 inches thick, so the gates will be 5'4".
Okay, thank you. So, yeah,
You're good? All right, is everybody good with the dumpster design?
Sounds like
Okay.
yes.
Then there was a question about the opaque glass that faces toward the street. And you'd responded that you would investigate either something decorative or something to put in there. Did you have any thoughts or an applique, or do you just want some leeway to put something in and come up with something later? What was your thoughts?
We'd like a little bit of leeway so we can really investigate something that's going to look right for the building as well as facing Route 9.
Yeah.
Whether it's some sort of crackled glass or some sort of applique. Maybe a sign or Yeah, I'm not sure. It won't be a menu or a sign or anything like that, but it'll be something there that'll look, I don't know.
Erase,
Yeah.
I was going to say, take,
Delete. We're kind of exploring our options right now. We're trying to figure out something that's going to look right with the building.
Okay. So is that perhaps something that can come back once they figure out what they want, or?
I'm not sure how to do that legally.
Let me ask a question while you guys are thinking. The thought that we keep thinking about, and I think we're almost settled on, would be a frosted glass.
So the issue is that in this district, glass is supposed to be, or the glazing is supposed to be clear because it's designed basically for retail so you can see items
Like a storefront?
like a storefront. In this instance, just to remind my colleagues, this is not a retail where you walk up and see stuff in the window. So the opacity seems justified, at least to me. And as you just described it, Mr. Bird, I think that sounds fine to me, but I can, when I call the board members, I can ask them if that seems okay to them as well.
It's said that they don't have an idea. It's just opaque. It doesn't say
It says
anything.
opaque.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, I have to be honest, I think I'd rather see something just opaque and kind of bland than I'd like to see a big steaming image of a coffee cup. So if we don't control what the applique is, we're not going to know.
Right.
And we also don't want it to be a sign because then it'll contribute to your
We
sign
definitely
square
won't.
footage,
It
et
definitely
cetera.
won't be a
So
It won't be a sign. We were thinking an applique like a coffee, but no, not a coffee, but like an R or something,
Okay,
But-
so I think the proposal is to do it as frosted glass.
or opaque. If the board is okay with just a straight opaque, I think that would actually look better as part of the, I think it would blend in much better.
Opaque.
I personally
Opaque.
do too, but
I think
But
you
when
had
we say
mentioned.
opaque, do we mean frosted? It's the same concept? No.
Not really. Opaque is just really you can't see through it. It's just more of a,
Didn't you say it was going to be like one of the buildings to the south? I thought one of the buildings to the south, is it the medical building? One of them has like opaque glass.
Emergency one.
emergency one.
Yeah.
They're conference. We're echoing each other, sorry. But yes, they made it so that you don't want to have people seeing in for HEPA purposes, a
Right.
doctor consulting with patients. So
Right.
So would you
There's
say
precedent
that
for this.
opaque is more gray and frosted is
Yes.
more white?
yes,
And the way it reads from the street?
correct.
That's how, if that's helpful.
Okay.
The-
I mean,
the-
I'm just trying to understand if we're happy with the notation that'll be opaque glass, or if I need any additional language on the plan.
I'm okay with that. Board members?
So it's just give us the color so we know for
Okay.
sure.
Opaque is better.
you know
Opaque
what
is
the color
fine, we
is?
think it's better than frosted.
It'll be a light gray,
A light gray.
because that'll blend in with the rest of the color scheme.
What sheet is this of the plans? It's your
I was
sheet.
gonna say, won't that be a condition?
Yep.
I believe it's sheet one.
I don't think there's a sheet one.
I think it's on the,
AP one?
Yeah, AP one. That one right there.
To note that the opaque glass will be what color?
Light gray.
Okay. Everyone's,
To match the building.
so Tad just asked, that's the same color as the building?
Yeah, it'll
Similar.
be very similar to one of the colors that we're using.
So what's the final language?
but it's.
Just
the
it'll be
multicolored,
okay.
right?
A light gray color.
I think Victoria's right. Are you writing that?
I've added a condition 10, but we'll talk about all of them at the end.
Right,
Yeah.
there may be more.
Kelvin values you addressed. We did talk about the concrete base. Usually you like them painted so they're not that, concrete look to it. So, as a condition, I believe we were going to add that'll
It's
be
in there.
match, right. So we
match
added that
color
in
to
just to
black.
let the applicant know. The hotspots are reduced. There are a couple places where there's still 9 to 12 for candles. And I think it's in places mostly because instead of a one pendant light, you have 2 pendant lights. Yeah, so do you need that level from your perspective? Because it might even be less expensive to put a 1 pendant light in. But definitely it's in the area by the dumpster and it's another, again, 2 pendant light.
I mean, I think it's predominantly where we have more of the through traffic, so we would like to leave it at that foot candle the 5 to 10, I don't think is too excessive. I know in another municipality, we're talking about 40, so 9 to 10 seems so low. But we would prefer to keep it higher in that location.
I'll defer to the planning board. That was just for the most part. You certainly got rid of the really hot spots, but you're at around a little over 10 in a couple places, and I'll defer to them.
I think it's warranted in that area. The bank across the street with the ATM is 60.
Is in violation of our code.
Well, I
It was
know.
not approved.
I know.
Make sure we just point that out.
But in this case, around the dumpster where, people could be lurking, whatever, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
And then the only thing was, as far as conditions, just to ensure that, because there are a couple of double pendants already existing, I'm assuming they have to be relocated because of the changes.
Yes, correct.
So, what we see on the plans is what is
It's
going
gonna
to be
built.
installed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a little bit of shuffling of existing fixtures. Correct.
Right, which might be the other reason why you're going with the two pendants.
Correct.
If you have to move them. Okay. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sotero, comments?
I did not get a chance to look at the current plans, but any of my engineering comments were previously addressed. The only thing I wanted to ask, were the outdoor tables shown on this latest submission?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
all
Yep.
right. Good. That's it for me.
Thank you. Ms. Moss?
If we're requiring the glass to meet the 30 inches from the grade, and you're just painting the glass the same color as the building, I don't see how that meets the purposes of the code. I personally would rather see it frosted so that you would at least know that it's glass.
Well, the glass won't be the exact same shade as the building, will it?
Yes.
So we'll just,
Sorry, say that again?
Oh, is the glass the same
the
shade
opaque
as
glass will be the
building?
exact same shade of the
No.
building? I didn't,
It's a light gray glass is, it's, honestly, it's just like my glasses.
Yeah.
You really can't even tell.
It's not a colored glass where it looks like it's painted
Yeah.
it's just,
gray.
it's reflecting the light back, in other words. That's what makes it opaque, because it doesn't let light pass through.
It's how they make the glass is how they make it opaque. And then you just put it, sorry. It's the, when they do opaque glass, it's really just a process on how they make the glass, and then they add a color into it. So, a light gray is not going to be the same light gray that will be painted on the building. It's much, much, much
That's what I
lighter.
thought, because
Right. So
it's
it's
really
gonna
just,
almost-
again, it's how the glass is treated, because it doesn't let light pass through it, so it reflects back,
Right,
which is why it makes it gray.
right. It's really, it's a super light gray, and you almost won't even notice it until you're right up to it.
It's like the color of clouds on a rainy day.
Yeah.
But just lighter.
So you're saying it would complement the color gray, but it's not the exact same color gray?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, when you're standing in front of it, you'll see the hint of gray, but when you're driving down the street, you'll never notice it. It'll look just like glass.
Thank you. Ms. Polidoro, any comments?
So start by reminding the board that the county has recommended disapproval of this application in its current iteration. So we do need a supermajority vote to act contrary to county's recommendation. And if you do, we should also authorize the chairman to send a report to county planning, to draft and send a report explaining why you took that action. And then we've drafted a resolution for you to approve, subject to a number of conditions. And I just want to talk through some of them. There's the standard conditions about escrow and Department of Health approval. We're still working on the reciprocal easement. I've seen a draft and sent back comments, so that's in progress. One of the conditions in here now for discussion is removal of the westernmost parking space in the grouping of 4 to make it 3, and then to recenter them. I'm asking for a note that I've asked for before. I didn't see it on the plans. If it's on there, I'm sorry I missed it, but it's just about the grab-and-go items and the,
Versus food preparation.
it has to do with the queuing.
Yep.
Right, food preparation. So if it ever changes to a different use with longer queues, they need to come back in. And I added the notes about the Kelvin values and the light pole bases being painted black, and then now there's a 10 on this version, revision of sheet AP1 to note that opaque glass will be light gray.
There is, there's the note on the front sheet. It says if additional items are to be provided or served at this location, causing a more intensive drive-through, a site plan amendment may be required. So if we want to change that, we
Yeah,
can modify it.
we're just
Yep.
gonna make it a little more specific.
Thank you. Let me start with my inner left. Ms. Wasser, comments?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I missed the last meeting also, but I'm up to date on the materials. And I'm glad to see the seating added. I generally really like this project. I want to vote yes. The trees, the wall, there's some things that I'm willing to accept in your responses, but the lack of trees and the height of the wall. But I still have a problem with those 3 spaces reduced to 4 in that drive aisle. And I would not be able to vote yes if that remains the way that it is. I'm good with everything else.
Thank you. Mr. Waters, comments?
I echo what Stephanie has just said. That the parking spaces have been always the issue for me, but, so.
Thank you. Mr. Veith?
Any concerns I had has been addressed in this letter, June 13th, thank you. And I'm good with the 4 parking spots. I think losing another spot in the whole parking lot isn't going to be useful. And I don't believe it's going to be a problem.
I did want to address, and I'm sorry that I should have done this in the beginning of the meeting, but we did, in response to your comment last week, the concern was that the easterly parking space was too close to the dumpster, and so there was some conflict. This is the one that would be closest to Board of Elections, that there would be some conflict. And so what Mr. Berger did is he took the 4, and we had eliminated 1, and so we recentered them, so we shifted it away from the dumpster, trying to address the concerns that you had. So they did get shifted, I don't know, I was going to say like 8 feet, I don't know how much they got shifted over, just to provide some greater visual distance between the dumpsters when you're backing out. So sorry, I should have said that earlier.
And I also want to clarify my comment about the spaces. I think I should give a reason for it, which is that I personally believe that it's a safety issue. So I didn't want to just say I have a problem with it. I have a problem with it because I believe it's a safety issue. Okay.
Ms. Dexter, comments?
Well, I want to thank you for your patience with us and with the town. You are the first ones through in this new zoning. Interestingly, that this is not what the new zoning envisioned, but I thank you for your patience because it has been it's been an interesting project. I think what I just wanted to stress here is that when a project comes in and it doesn't quite fit zoning, we do try to work with the applicant because we're always happy to have the new business in Hyde Park. And so I think you have done a great job of meeting our concerns and working through the new zoning and in a very interesting site where your nearest neighbor is not something that you own. So I really want to thank you for working through the cross-access easement agreement. I think that will just help everybody.
Agree.
But in general, thank you for working with us. And as with some other projects in town, this will be the nicest one of all the ones that you have. We have many projects in town where we have kind of worked longer than other townships might have and gotten a much better project. And I feel like this is one that everybody's going to notice and hopefully just be happy that it's here. So thank you very much for working with us.
We appreciate your help also.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Oliver?
I'll also echo Ann's comments. There's a lot of site constraints, and you guys have done a great job working through them and working with us, and I appreciate that. My comment regarding the parking, I've been an advocate for the 4 spots just because of looking at the whole site. I think that the parking for different events and the whole use of the site is important, and that's all I have to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Gercio?
last but not least, I'm an advocate for the 4 spaces, and I think you addressed all your concerns. I mean, everything seems to be covered in this letter. I did make a comment last week about, or last time we had the meeting, about the trees. You know, I wasn't here on prior board, so I don't know the complete history of everything, but I mean, I think it's going to be a great project for the town, and I think you've addressed everything here. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And unfortunately, I'm actually last and least. So, I have made my position very clear all along about the 4 parking spaces, and it has not changed. I respect my colleagues' opinions, that's what we all have, but I'm going to go back to the traffic engineer and his comment letter based on the revisions before of dropping the original from 5 to 4. Even though Ms. Leibold's comments or her responses say that this is just like backing up into any other drive aisle, I disagree. The statement from the traffic engineer is very clear that there's multiple streams of traffic in this area. So in a typical driving aisle, when you back out, there's going to be someone coming this way and someone coming this way. In this one, you can come those ways, you can come this way, you can come this way, as well as this way. So I also am one who would champion the project. I'm willing to stone walls, everything, but I can't support the project with the parking spots as proposed right now. And I believe I've made myself clear on that. The last email that I sent to you guys was not responded to, and that's where I outlined just what I had to say right there. So at this point, if we're going to have a vote, I think I know how it's going to go, and it doesn't sound like it's going to get to a supermajority, unless I'm wrong.
Is the board's position that they want 3 spaces versus the 4 spaces? Is that's the position?
From my viewpoint, I want no spaces there. I don't see, given what the traffic engineer said, multiple streams of traffic, again, I don't see that backing in and out of there is any way at all analogous to a normal parking area. That's all. So, and again, while I think that it's important to maximize parking, as Chris said, in terms of general activities that can go on there, we have a lot of parking still for this site. You have, 7 spaces, I believe, that are dedicated just to the Ready Coffee. That's plenty, I believe, because this is more of a drive-through nature business, I'm guessing. And the nature of the businesses there, we don't have, most of the places there are what I'll call service retail or delivery retail, meaning pizza. And service, you go in there to get a haircut, you go in to get your tires changed, et cetera. So this isn't a site, in other words, where you would go and park and then walk around and hit different businesses to shop, et cetera. That doesn't mean it wouldn't happen that way in the future. And certainly in the future, we could consider some sort of banking of parking. But for me, I think it's a safety issue.
So
And I respect everybody else's opinions, as I said, but when the traffic engineer, who that's his skill set, his safety says that he thinks that it causes potential for accidents, I don't see it as anything good.
we would love it if we could have the 3 parking spaces. That would be our position. We really feel as if we need those for the walk-up window, and eliminating those spaces forces people to be parking.
What are
on
the 7 spaces that are dedicated now for?
There
Just
aren't
sitting
7,
around putting your-
aren't 7, there's actually 3 plus a handicap.
Did it get reduced down?
Yes,
Yeah,
it did.
that got reduced.
That was reduced a couple meetings ago.
7 between the north and the south. Right? It's 7 between the north and the south?
Yes, there's right now there's 7 spaces between both the 4 that we're talking about, plus 3 inside.
I'm talking about the spaces that are on the right as you're driving into the drive-through.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got
That's been
eliminated.
reduced?
So we put the handicap parking space there, so that took 2 spots, and then we had to eliminate another space there as well because it brought the sidewalk
What
came
sheet
through
are
there.
you on?
It's site plan, it's 3 of 10, Joe Burgers.
Oh, wait, which one? We're looking at.
It's page 3 of 10 on Burger Engineering.
Sidewalk changed as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we lost
I remember that.
quite a
The
few.
bottom, I think one of the bottom is different than the top. The 2.
Yeah, yes, you're right, it is. The grading plan is different. The turning paths and the site plan.
So it ends up that we have
This plan is a little different.
We have a total of 7 spaces plus one handicap
No,
parking space. and
I'm
loading
sorry,
area.
I'm misreading it. I apologize. It's just the wording that's there, I'm missing. It is 4 on the inside. It is 4 on the inside. I'm sorry.
It's 5.
It's the way it was done there. It was- I was
Well, with the
reading it.
handicap.
With the handicap, you lose, it's 2. So there's 4 plus the handicap, which is
So that's fine, that is fine.
It's 4 plus a handicap. You really can't count the handicap as.
Don't tell
how
a
many
handicap person that.
Well, no, I'm
No,
saying.
no, we're
I'm
saying
as-
you can't count that to the total available parking because it's a limited, it's a parking space that's constrained.
Trust me, I use the handicap a lot when I searches. Remember, I was here in a Castleman.
All I can suggest that we say is put it up for a vote.
Would you allow us to poll the board?
Pardon me?
To poll the board?
I think we
That is called a vote. There is no polling of the board.
I think we
If you can't understand up here how people are going to vote, then you're not polling correctly.
Do you want to go talk to your client and come back in a few moments?
In other words, I heard 3 people, me included, say that they did not support the
I
parking
understand.
spaces as such.
I understand. I think
And
that
you
the
need
last
5.
meeting that we were at, that you were present, you had said that when push come to shove, if you were the deciding vote, that you would vote in favor
Let
of.
me recant that testimony, sorry, based on the fact that we have that letter that I don't think has been answered correctly to the traffic engineer.
We'll ask just to
I will
take a
also
short
add,
adjournment.
by shifting it down, by recentering the 4 spaces, you now have that 4th space that's the most westerly space that would be backing into other areas
Yeah.
again. That was
Chairman,
the first one that was
the-
lost.
Discussion, the question is if it was changed to parallel, so they're not backing out directly into
Instead of
traffic?
having like 3, maybe there's 2. I don't know how many parallel.
I'd have to see them. I was going to say, I don't see how you get that many.
We go to one.
I'm just offering something up.
I do
don't
think
know.
that's safer,
parallel
but
It's safer.
it does sound safer, but I'd also want the traffic engineer to at least take a look at it and say, yes, this is safe.
All right, we'll take a recess and we'll take the next application. If you can just adjourn this application momentarily. Do you want to open the,
Wait, adjourn this just for,
5 minutes?
Yeah, we
to
can they can
tonight.
come back and,
yes.
yeah.
Do we have to adjourn this, though?
Well, no,
Just give me 5
we're in a
minutes?
public hearing, so we can just table this for the moment.
Right, we're going to table this for the moment, and you
So-
want us to go on to the next application
Well,
that you're
let's
Can I
on.
ask
Sure.
a quick question
Yes,
also with
wait.
regard to the handicap
I
spaces?
can't, I'm sorry, I can't hear.
So with regard to the handicap spaces, does it have to be there?
yes, I think it was asked by this board that we move the parking space at that location.
No, I mean, in other words, can you relocate the handicap space?
Yes,
Is
we
it
had
really
it, yes, we had it in another location and it
But
was
it-
asked to put it
The
here.
building code is
to
it
be
has to be the
closest
closest
to
to
the
the
Does it have to
entrance.
be there? Okay. Okay.
Isn't it the building entrance, not just the building?
It's a reasonable cost based on grade.
Okay.
And there's nothing else in front of the building where it could go.
Only thing that can move the location is because you need your 2% grade.
Okay, so we'll table this for,
And the next item on the agenda is not a public hearing, I believe.
Other
It's-
business.
Wait,
it's-
do you want to get public comment before we break?
Would anyone like to speak about this application?
No.
Take a break. The next item is Bellafield's final development plan. So you're going to stay here through this portion of the project? Yes, okay. So on this one, we had some very last-minute comments from Ms. Moss, but Victoria and I worked through them. Did everyone have a chance here to read through them? Ms. Moss's comments? They
Did
came
you
at
hand them out,
4:30.
Cynthia?
Did not fully digest.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
one? This one?
Yes.
This is on the sign manual, though, not the development plan.
Well, that's...
It's part of it.
Right, the development plan, what we're evaluating is before the chair or designated,
It's a condition.
right, it's a condition that
for
we
the
have to approve the
approval.
signed manual utility plan. So Victoria and I went through just now, Tad was gone, but went through and we think dealt with every issue that was raised. Some of them Tad wanted clarification, which we think the clarification was already in there on a couple. Other signs like the 200 maximum amount of square footage for a sign, that's for the pad sites. We think that if they had, like, for example, you had a question, if there's an L-shaped building, is that 6 walls? Could they have 6 signs? Yes, as long as it totaled up to a maximum of 200. But if they also have a freestanding sign that it's part of that, I don't think you're going to see an excessive sign. And plus, the board has the ability to say, this is too big, et cetera, I believe.
Right.
And we did clarify when things have to go to the ZBA.
I didn't think it went to the board for recommendation. I thought I just issued permits based on.
It depends on if it's visible or not visible from the Route 9.
So it's only the ones that would come to us, you have to refer them because the size is too big for the manual, or they're visible from Route 9 or 9G.
Right, the
Route
question
9.
is, with the limit of 200 square feet, do you want to give the applicants flexibility of how they break up that 200 square feet?
And my example was, if you've gone to Woodbury Commons, some of those buildings have lots of walls, and there's an identifier on each one. Some are big, some are small, but if you're wandering around a six-walled building, you might want to make sure that you're at the right location. So we were trying to provide the applicants with maximum discretion for the signage that would be proposed for this. Trying to find the other comments real quickly. Right.
Do you want a
At
copy?
the very beginning, there's one about, there will be no tenant directory, and your question about how the wayfinding sign does not then become a directory, which I thought was an excellent question, and I'm not quite sure how
So
that gets.
our response, so Victoria and I were thinking about this, and this is for the board, this is all for the board to consider. But if you have, like the pad sites, that's just a single tenant. So the wayfinding signs may have to have a single tenant sign saying, city winery or educational, whatever. But the rest would say the shops at Carriage Way or the whatever, because you're talking about broad areas. And you would say maybe the two hotels, because essentially those are pad sites as well, if you think about it.
Correct.
But at the same time, you would still be saying the villas as part of the Crescent or whatever the name of the hotel would be. So you would have maybe a hybrid, in other words. So while it would have some tenant names on it, the board could always ensure that it didn't have nothing but tenant names on it, so it would never become a tenant directory sign. That's how I should have said it at the beginning.
So there's no logos on it?
Right, it's just a way of
Yeah.
saying, this is there, this is there, this
Directional,
is there.
just a
And
directions.
again, you can't possibly list every tenant that's in the Main Street area, so you have to
Correct.
say the shops at da-da-da-da.
That's what we're doing.
So that's just up to the board, but as long as it doesn't list just tenant names, we thought that it was okay to, so it would be kind of a
Say that
mix.
there will be
a
no
mix.
tenant directory.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
In other words,
Yes.
saying that there's no tenant directory should solve this, we
Yes.
thought. Next item, the very first one, Tad said, had this change to the manual assist to regulates, we made that a condition. The second was the new tenant directory. The third, the procedure for permits. How did we handle this, Victoria? Sorry, I don't remember.
We added a maximum. So right now, there's a maximum letter height, but the planning board has discretion to increase that letter height based on certain factors. If it, maybe the building's a lot bigger and the small letters look funny on that wall. But the suggestion from Tad was to add a maximum, because otherwise everyone tends to come in with like 3 or 4 foot high letters. So add a maximum, after which they have to go get a variance. So we could increase up to 24 inches, after which anything bigger than that needs, a more formal
And that
process.
comports with our current code, that we can go 24
Yes,
ourselves. After that, it
correct.
goes to the ZBA. So that
Okay.
we think that takes care of that when it's up to the board.
Meaning that it's already in here, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, meaning
We
I've
added
added
it.
it, so
We added to
what we
change it.
have is a draft resolution, which was.
Oh, okay, I'm
Cynthia.
sorry, I didn't get that part. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that it had been a discussion and you have gone through and added conditions to the resolution, sorry.
Because we
I'm
did
very
this.
efficient with this little computer here.
This is the resolution that we did at 5:59 PM
It's
tonight.
happening in live stream.
Yeah.
Real
So-
time.
Real
Okay,
time.
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, so we would be conditioning the conditions, but,
And
these are
Maximum
written
was-
in a way that they are not discretionary, and so this should just be minor tweaks for Grace to make to the manual.
And then the next item, under general guidelines, pad sites are excluded from the maximum of 100 square feet of signage. They're given 200 square feet. Pad sites are not identified on the plan. What we did was just say, because we're not really sure, like right now, the educational use building, we didn't even approve that architecture. That right now could be a pad site. You could have just one use in there, like some college or whatever. At the same time, you might have different uses in that, so it wouldn't make it a pad site building anymore. So it wouldn't be subject to this. So what we did was just suggest, it's a condition 3, pad site business guidelines, clarify the definition of pad site to be a single tenant building. That way we know that it's,
11.
pardon me?
There are 11.
Single tenant,
Pad sites.
not,
Okay.
I mean, on the overall site, not phase 1.
Phase 2, phase 1 and 2.
I mean, phase 1 and 2, there's 11 pad sites?
No.
That's what I was trying to show you, Larry. is
Yeah,
that
no,
there's
no.
single
All 11?
buildings.
Yeah, but
Can we maybe identify by building numbers?
Yes.
do you want to show me?
We can do that now.
She's
I
calling
had
this
written
as
line one. It's in my office.
I have the plan right here.
I left mine home.
Pad site. Where's a pad site? That's a single
By the way, thank you for providing the red line plus the regular. It made it
Really easy.
very easy. Thank you. I went. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch.
But what signage, not monument signs, but
Just the wall, the blade,
so.
on that one.
This is the one.
Add.
we don't care.
We'll identify by number.
Okay,
By
we're
building
fine.
number?
By building number, is that
Okay, I'm ready.
We're fine.
Can we give me some building
Can you
numbers?
give her
By
the building
building
numbers?
number.
Oh, so we'll just say,
Which is in
and,
by building number.
Oh, to make it
we want the
easy.
building numbers now?
No, well,
You're gonna add them into
Because you
the,
won't
Yes.
know, right?
This is the resolution.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. This may be okay.
it's okay, we're adding.
All right, so
So, condition 3 now says, and identify pad sites by building numbers.
wait. Pad sites, clarify different pad sites, yeah. By building.
Yeah.
With the proviso that, remember, these could change. You may
Of course.
have some, okay.
Then we have to change the manual, but we can change the manual, planning board.
We can do that. We can amend the manual ourselves without any fuss.
I expect it would.
You're right.
It's
As
how-
tenants develop.
That's how we're,
Then,
We're trying.
primary wall signs, Tad's question was, do these regulations apply to a pad site? Which they do. The pad site gets extra treatment, but otherwise, the primary wall signs are all throughout the thing. I didn't understand how do these integrate, what you meant by that, Tad?
If they were different, if pad sites had a different rule than the other sites, the other businesses, how do they mesh? If they're, if.
It's the same, so it's
they're all
primary,
the same,
yeah,
then it
okay.
must be-
The only thing different is that the pad site, the building, more of the building can be occupied by sign, but there's still a maximum of square footage. And so 70% seeming excessive. If it's a long wall, that does seem, or if it's a short wall, it seems excessive. But as long as they total up to the square footage and it doesn't seem garish, I think that's how we're going to have to regulate this stuff. Mural guidelines. So murals are not a sign. But you did mention that it identifies products. So your question was that can wall, blade, and window signs have specific products? But that's not permitted the way this is written still anyway. Only the mural can have. Well, if the mural is a window sign, or I guess, now that I think about it, a wall sign, it could have product on it, but it wouldn't be able to have the rest of what its sign is, the way you define mural signs.
And signs can always have logos and
Right.
any decoration, right?
In other words, if I'm reading the way,
Figure out, we've never had anybody that's attempted to include a particular product as part of a sign.
I think what they mean is if City Winery has a bottle of wine or
You
grapes.
show the bottle of wine, you can't show.
it couldn't say city winery, right, in other words, but this, I want to just point out, this was in response to Board Member Waters, talking about how to make some of the signage look a little bit more vintage and antique, the faded look of a mural.
But he was actually talking about ghost signs, which are
Well-
different. They're actual signs versus a mural,
Right, but
painted signs.
is the board okay with the mural the way it's defined? Or do you guys want to just have that deleted, that section?
Ghost sign?
You are? Is it just the fact that it could have a product?
It's like a sign either made to a face like that.
Which makes sense.
I'll show you one.
We'll take the word product.
Larry.
Larry's like,
Larry's.
Just get rid of that word
He's
product.
done. He's done. He's tired.
So if you get rid of product, then it directs attention to place, activity, person, institution, or business, any letter, animal, character, figure, or emblem designed to advertise
Product is part of a list of potential
You can make
things.
signs now look.
So the answer is, no, it's not applicable to the other signs in the rest of the development. That's the answer, right?
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
Just-
Yeah, you can't take out the word product, right?
No, because it,
Sometimes if it's referenced in one place, it
the way I'm reading it is that sign is the one that does all that. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sign mentions product there. Okay. But a sign can have attention to product. For example, Dunkin' Donuts. Its logo is the hot coffee thing. So
Right,
that's,
and it's
that's
saying
a
that
product.
that's what it is, yeah.
I'm just saying, so signs do go to product, so I think we're okay there. The mural itself can't do it, but the signs can. In other words, your object, your symbol, your graphic symbol could be a product.
Yeah, like Buffalo
Yes.
Wild Wings says the
It can have,
Buffalo Wings.
it can have a wine
Okay.
bottle.
And murals have to be approved by the landlord, right? Wasn't it
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
So this is,
So we don't.
No, they
We're not
they-
taking it out.
But all they're doing
I don't
is saying
think
the
they're gonna
sign
want it.
Then
is doing that.
the entrance barn, roadway finding signs, and entrance monument signs may not meet intended content restrictions.
What's the difference?
Do you want to
The
go
sign
through that?
Victoria question.
They
Oh.
can put up in the word product.
Is it?
but the
Okay.
product is part of the whole list of things that the sign does.
the entry monument signs may be better defined as
Mural.
road markers.
Can't read it.
No,
Oh,
the one above it,
Let's say
all the way on the
raises
top.
I'm not sure how the numbered
that's
street
why
name
they've got this
signage
here.
relate to the images.
No, no, above that, I'm not sure the entrance barn, roadway finding signs, entrance monument signs meet intended content restrictions.
Well, we
Well,
don't, we
that's what
can't
a
really
mural should
restrict content.
No.
Oh,
But if
They restrict.
They can restrict.
It's their own sign manual.
That's fine. But it can't say city limits.
That's fine.
oh.
You can do a field.
We're saying that the
Wine
language
bottles and-
restricting what the signs are is not enforceable by the town. And so perhaps we need a statement that landlord may limit sign to only be with the name of the business and
Its product and.
its product, et cetera. Town, we cannot, after some of these Supreme Court cases, we struggle now to limit content of a sign.
Particularly for commercial.
So we would want to change that to say landlord is limiting this, but it's not something the town can enforce.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How do you add that into the?
So what, I need a page number and, okay.
Find that, Grace?
Do you know where this is, Tad?
Page 10. Mural guidelines.
No, this is not mural.
This is just a blanket
The murals
statement.
work through. It's, isn't this at the front?
Yeah, I would think at the front.
Just
somewhere.
in general
Under
guidelines.
Is it under
Yeah.
general guidelines?
Yeah.
So we're gonna add a sentence that says, what is it?
Yeah, but even if it was
She's
an apple.
gonna stick in the resolution, but needs a page number to refer to.
Eligibility.
I just want to approve what they're putting in the resolution.
Okay, I mean, I don't see the.
Why couldn't it be the first sentence under general guidelines?
I mean, when they issue a permit for a sign, they can't.
That
do
landlords,
Right.
Where do you restrict everything to what can be on them? What section is that?
Find it, Grace?
Well, it's not in here, we have to,
Yeah, sorry.
they're gonna have to decide what
No, I'm looking.
Right. Okay, so the real suggestion, now that I understand, is that, but this is not a road sign. This is a monument sign. It's only at the entrances. So it's not going to be in the interior.
We have no idea what you're discussing.
Okay, so the question is,
Neither do
it
they.
has to do, if you go to page 14,
Page 14?
there's a monument sign there that Tad,
Yes.
we're discussing. Is this really intended to be a road sign because it says Blue Hill Ridge? Or is this intended to be a monument sign? Like a road sign would be when you're on the interior. So they don't want a proliferation of super large monument signs where it should just be an easy road sign.
And it's a structure within a setback.
But that's fine, signs are always within the setback. right? I mean, that's,
Wait, monument signs are only allowed for pad sites, and the entrances.
and the entrances.
The main
so
entrances.
it's not going to be, it's only going to be at the entrances.
In other words,
Right.
no offense, this is a bad example. You're not going to ever have Bellafield with Blue Hill Ridge written onto it, because unless there's a business that's called Blue Hill Ridge in a pad site,
Yeah, that's the confusion, is that
Because
it's a road sign
the
on
road sign,
monument
Blue
is
Hill
an
Ridge,
example.
wouldn't be a road sign like this.
Correct.
That's the
Correct.
issue.
But the language would control.
Yes, but do you want to just take off the Blue Hill Ridge?
And just put-
tenant,
Tenant.
pad site tenant?
It's not, but this is not a
Tad,
street
we can't
sign.
leave a road sign on this, because then the image conflicts with the text. That's what you're
Unless
basically
they're
saying.
saying that this is, this entrance, like the Blue Hill Ridge entrance, and the other one is the carriageway entrance, when you enter.
What was the intent of saying carriageway, Blue Hill Ridge?
Describing each of the three signs.
What's the question?
What was the intent?
Well, just to define the access. I mean, that's the road.
So that is the road name.
That is the road name.
But you're gonna need signs for 911 somehow.
Yeah, then when you get in there, you'll have all that in there.
So you kind of just want to identify it almost like a neighborhood,
Right.
but you're using it.
So, wait, one more time.
Yeah.
Pad site business guidelines. Businesses with a driveway entrance may erect a monument sign with the name of the business. A business may have one sign per entrance. Those are the only monument signs that are allowed, including, or except for the ones that are on the entrances from St. Andrews, Route 9, and wherever else.
So this is intended to be an entrance sign that says this is the Blue Hill entrance, and the other one would say carriageway entrance, or whatever.
Is that the intent? Is that you were, Grace, you guys
They're
were doing this?
descriptors.
That's the intent.
So, and let's go back, what is the problem with that?
There's no problem, because they're limited to only those locations, right?
Was it the height of
I
the
mean, that
monument?
might be better for people
Nothing.
coming there the first time to say,
Width.
this is the Blue Hill, Blue whatever Ridge entrance, that's what it's supposed to be.
They just, I think
Particularly
the
if you're a
concern was
resident,
that you would
if you're going to
take
visit
out the
somebody who
street
lives there, not a
name and switch
business.
it
Yeah.
to something else.
Correct.
Board, are you okay with that? In other words, if you had a monument entrance off, say, St. Andrews, and you're going to where the residences are, and you're not going to where the businesses are, and so you see a monument sign that says Bellafield Historic Hyde Park, whatever, but
The crescent.
the Blue Hill Ridge, the Crescent.
Crescent
You would know
Estates.
that's where you're supposed to be to enter there, because that's all the residences,
Yeah.
so.
Is there a hierarchy of size? The one
Yeah.
that enters the project is different than the one that establishes a neighborhood? Do we?
They changed that. You made a maximum height for the pad site is, I think, lower than the ones for the entrances.
Yes, we do have a maximum height of 7 foot for driveway entrances to pad sites, and with allowable maximum height of 6 feet. So the site entrances were 7 feet, the driveway entrances to pad sites were 6 feet.
That's what I thought, because you made them subsidiary to the main ones.
Yes.
I believe it was set up that way for continuity. I think to keep things looking consistent throughout the developments.
Stone on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's what they're trying to do. So they're branding it, but they're using it as different elements. One is a monument, one is a road
So
sign.
are we good with the size hierarchy, differentiation of
That-
the hierarchy? of
It's
size?
340 acres. I think you want to have your main entrances to have your bigger signs.
Yeah.
And your
No, but
site,
the other one, the
your pad
6 foot
site.
ones, are we good with 6 feet?
That's what you would be allowed now with a freestanding sign, if it was a freestanding business right now, in the rest of, in the rest of the town.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like it's, everybody okay with that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I just want
Yes.
Tad to be okay.
As long as it's, we discussed it, and you're fine.
And then the numbered street name signage, 1 through 5, relate to images, or these road, the street name signage is the one that has Bluestone Ridge on it as the roadway sign, right?
No,
the street name
they're
sign
like
is
the
for-
camp signs.
Oh,
The
those.
trail, right? Is it a trail?
What
That's-
page? I think it's
15?
Page 15.
Are those what you're talking about?
these.
Oh, those.
These are the vertical signs.
The names
It's
of the
6 foot
roads.
clearance underneath, right? Yeah.
And so they're showing different kinds of wayfinding signs, i.e. carriageway has the little hook up or parallel at the top. Then you have the one that's just the ones that are just vertical, where the guy with the red tie is walking by.
Right, well,
And then you
the-
have
The shorter
the
ones,
scarecrow,
just the
as I call
vertical.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
would
so the,
Be for the trails.
here, one says road wayfinding sign on 13, and then on 15 it says road/trail wayfinding signs. And so, are they different? Are they the same? They're different pictorially.
This is true.
What are those?
They would
Oh,
come
trail.
down in size. We talk about the street signs being a 6x6 post, and the trail signs would be smaller in scale.
4 feet tall.
Okay, so can we change the heading on 15 to say street/trail wayfinding sign?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, got it. Make that a condition.
What page was that?
Page 15, where it says road trail wayfindings, it should say street.
Yep. Yep.
Details.
The entry monument signs may be better defined as road markers, replacing the development name with the Apple logo. I think what that means is those are entry monument signs, you're wondering if instead of saying Bellafield, it should just have the Apple logo.
But that's, I mean, that's a choice.
That's a choice for you guys to make and to propose to the board, and
We would agree.
so
Yep.
that's okay.
Yep.
Do the wayfinding signs 2 and 3 have waterfalls? That wasn't clear to me. Do you know? You're planning more than one sign. I believe the last meeting I attended, I believe we discussed the fact that you might need another one of these bigger signs with the waterfall kind of toward the left. Once this is for the future development, because right now that's a pretty big sign. It's got the water feature, but that's going to be just for this second phase. You would want another one maybe for a different phase down the line, if I recall correctly.
Yes, wayfinding sign 1, that's the waterfall, so 2 and 3, I haven't thought through that enough.
So
It's not
they
gonna be-
could
Currently,
be.
it looks like they're gonna have waterfalls, and it looks like they're gonna be designed in a similar fashion based on the naming. So,
They definitely would want to be of a similar fashion. I'm not certain about the water features.
But stone and.
You want
directional-
those to be identifiable as your bigger directory sign, wayfinding signs, put it that way. Pardon me?
there aren't directory signs.
No, there aren't directory signs, but that's sort of as close as you're going to get to it. Again, because you can't possibly list every tenant, so you can't really have a directory
Right.
sign. So, I'm okay if they have waterfalls with the other ones. Are you guys
But if
okay?
they don't,
I'm okay with it.
if they don't,
I'm okay if they
I
don't.
don't think it's
Then it's gonna
required.
be stone.
are they going to be as big? Are they going
Well, right now, you only have one
Yes.
roadway
They have to
finding
propose
sign.
things, and the board has to go back and forth.
No, but in
Correct.
other
We're
words, the
okay with that.
standard here
Yes.
is only for the one identified as number 1.
So what's number 2 and number 3?
They don't
Mr.
have
Chairman,
it.
we're okay with your approach. Yep. So,
Because
remember that
They were
the
just
first one
saying-
backs up
they
into
just were just
something
saying
too,
they don't
right?
have a
Because
2
you
or
Yes.
3
don't want to see
sign
that
yet.
back, so it's where it's strategically placed.
It's screening.
It needs to be
Correct.
screened
No, this is
properly
for
and
all
all,
Yes.
so you might not have the water feature in
in
it,
another location.
in another location, so. Yep,
So
I
are you
got
going
you.
to come back in
He's,
for 2 and 3?
Michael,
Side by
or
side.
the chairman's
Yeah.
Okay,
discussing it
This
amongst
covers
them.
all of phase 2.
That's what I'm trying to go through one by
right,
one.
but they only have
Okay.
one.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
The board seems to be okay with negotiation for the future about
Perfect.
size and waterfalls or not. Building addressing identification is required. Property identification signs for 911 purposes are not to exceed 2 square feet, and Article 24 exempt from permitting.
We understand that.
Is this to us? Do we
Does
find?
that satisfy you, Larry? We were talking about building identifications earlier. That's okay?
Yes,
And that's
yeah,
fine?
yep.
We don't need to do anything with that?
Okay, last question. Who enforces this? So, the sign manual is meant to provide design guidance and how to approve it. But enforcement, it's listed in different sections of the code, but enforcement is always against the property owner, the landowner, not the tenant.
Right.
So this would be the
The
same.
tenant applies for the sign and gets the permit.
The tenant has to first have an approval from the landlord, I
Landlord,
thought.
correct.
That's in the permit application. They have to have that.
Now, is the landowner the landlord, because some of these are going to be lots, and they're going to be sold? I think. Or
Well, I mean,
will it be
let me put it,
association?
wait,
just
let me
go
put it
after
this
the
way.
fee owner.
Right now, if you have, so there's an illegal sign in where Stop and Shop Plaza, Hyde Park Mall technically. That illegal sign that we approved, that was not internally lit when we approved it,
Right.
do you write a violation to the tenant or to the landlord or both?
Both.
So wouldn't that still apply here too?
In the absence of anything other in the sign design manual, the regular process applies. Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, is there going to, should it be the master association that's responsible? I mean, or is it individual
I think
property
it's
owners?
easier for us to just go after the fee owner,
Okay, that's fine.
right? And then let them work it out.
In other words, we're treating this, any violation, we treat it just like any other sign
Just like the sign
violation.
manual, or the sign code. Yep, we would agree with that.
Okay, so do we need to add another condition about,
Yes, so we've added condition 5, which now says, page 15, change heading to street trail wayfinding sign.
What was 5 again?
Change heading, page 15,
Oh, right.
change heading to street trail wayfinding sign.
Slash trail,
Yeah,
okay.
street/trail wayfinding.
All right.
anybody have any other comments on the sign manual? Now's the time to speak.
No, but I want to thank Tad and my colleagues who went through this with a fine tooth comb, because this really does need to be as tight as we can make it.
Because it's going to be used
It's come a long way.
in the future?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's come a long way.
So
I mean, it's only 340 acres.
I'm perfectly prepared to vote on this tonight. Is everybody else?
Yeah.
As amended, the resolution?
I am.
So this was assigned to who?
Me.
John doesn't sound very happy about it.
Do we have the updated conditions?
It's
We need
coming,
a fifth
it's
one.
coming.
Just the second page, page 5.
Page
Just,
2 has
just
been
to note,
amended.
to let the board know, we, condition number 1, we paid the $22,000 rec fee today, this afternoon.
Oh, not
Thank
for the
you.
sign manual, you mean for,
The
Yeah.
Right.
not
signature-
rec fee. I'm going to be Jennifer Van Tile, that was not a rec fee, that's a rec contribution.
Yeah.
She would yell at all of you for saying fee, I can
We
guarantee
dropped
you.
off the check today for $22,000.
So there was a requirement for mitigation under seeker that they would contribute 50,000 to a rec fund, rec trust fund. But Jennifer, Ms. Van Tile kept saying, it's not a fee, because if it's a fee, then there's a lot more potentially that would have happened. That's why she said that.
Contribution.
It says fee
First-
here, though.
It was
It does?
definitely.
Oops, that was our fault.
Well, no, it's a fee.
Okay. Oh,
We dropped
right,
off.
there is no
How about we
contribution.
just say we dropped off the check today for
They
$22,000
were,
and move on?
yeah.
okay.
We had.
Thank you.
Mr. Gercio, you ready, are you ready to read this resolution?
Sure.
I know it's not going to be fun, but thank you.
It's all right, it's fine.
Not as bad.
Resolution to approve sign manual and utility plan.
What?
Not as bad as mine.
Bellafield Final Development Plan Phase 2, Resolution 2023-27C, whereas on March 15th, the Resolution 2023-27B, the planning board granted the applicant T-Rex Hyde Park owner LLC and its related entities conditional final development plan approval for Phase 2 of the Bellafield Planned Unit Development on approximately 40-acre area located in the southwest corner of overall Bellafield property. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby approves the overall utility plan and acknowledges that the condition for the approval resolution has been satisfied. Be it further resolved that the planning board approves the sign design manual and acknowledges the conditions 2 of the approval resolution has been satisfied once the following changes to the sign design manual are made. Page 2, under eligibility, change assist to regulate. Number 2, page 2, under procedure for permits, provide a maximum dimension of 24 inches for letters and logos, after which the request would go to the zoning board of appeals. Number 3, pad site business guidelines, clarify the definition of pad site to be a single tenant building not connected to others in the neighborhood, and identify the pad site's buildings. Change.
Building numbers.
Building numbers, sorry.
Sorry for my bad handwriting.
Change maximum sign and logo height throughout the sign design manual to 12 inches in all directions for all signs, with exception of the barn sign. Page 5, page 15, change heading to street, trail, wayfinding signs.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. You got the sign manual done and the utility plan, so
Thank you.
it's the SWIP that's left. And
Congratulations.
how far, I know it's a 1,000-page SWIP. We got it. on
I had a
June 6th.
discussion today with Kyle, and I think he's going to want one more quick call with Chris and a couple folks from his office.
Okay.
What is the problem is because it was done in hydro flow versus hydrocad. And so I talked to him and I told him that I was going to review the soil and erosion control plan so he wouldn't have to deal with that. And then we have to get with Tad, so we're hoping to wrap this up in the next, week or so.
Does that mean they'll be done before, it's conceivable this could be all done before the 19th?
Yes, that's what we want.
Okay, congratulations.
You don't have to congratulate me.
Well, no, it's been a lot of work, I know.
Well, it's just fitting it in with.
That's what I'm saying.
everything else.
Congratulations, this is good.
Yep,
So,
thank you very much.
okay, so you're done, and we're just waiting for
Yep.
Ready Coffee to come back.
Everyone, thank
Should we
you very
take the next
much.
one?
I appreciate it.
All right, I'm gonna take a bath.
So are we?
I guess you're going to be working on a play project?
As amended.
Do you guys want to take a break or something for a bit? Because the next one is the Big Kahuna, the hotel in the village.
Can we do some of the small other businesses?
We could. You know what? Let's take advantage of, while we're waiting, let's go ahead and do some other business before we get to the CIA Hotel and Villas.
I think they're back.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we're back discussing 4 spaces versus no spaces. So we've conferred with the client, and the client is saying either 4 spaces or he'll have to pull the application or we'll have to accept the denial. Both Joe Berger and Nick Zatara, who's the underlying property owner, would like to speak.
Well, first, like Susan said,
I just had a conversation with the project owner, Mr. Bonham, and those spaces are critical to the function and the operation of the business, and they're very critical for the walk-up. If we eliminate them, it just puts people too far away, and he's done this a lot he's got 3 other stores, knowing how the people work, or how people function, and how people move around the project. And for the walk-up window, those spaces are critical to the project.
Thank you. Mr. Zatara?
Well, and I did speak with him, and he is willing to reduce it down to 3.
Mr. Zatara?
I just want to say, I'm just shocked because we've been doing this for almost 3 years or 2.5 years, and I think we've respected everyone's, opinion on the board. We hired a traffic engineer who has a PhD in traffic engineering, and we would have not done the plan the way we did it if he thought it was unsafe. And I think that, that opinion also has to be respected. I mean, I'm a business owner. None of my businesses would be successful without parking. None of them. And I think that, we have other businesses on the site who depend on the parking spots. Maybe not those, but we have to, try to keep everybody happy with parking. And I do think that we were asked to go from 5 to 4, and we did. And now we're willing to go from 4 to 3. But, after 3, it's not going to happen. It just doesn't make sense. You got to invest all that money, and then, you can't.
Are you asking us not to respect our traffic engineer?
No,
Who
I'm
said
not
it's
asking
unsafe
that.
and will cause accidents?
I'm not asking that, Michael, no.
Well, I don't know what you're asking me to do then, because you're saying that we have to respect your guys' opinion, but not our
No,
guys' opinion.
I said I respected my guy's opinion, and I think that, it's a valid opinion.
And yes, but I myself am resting my decision based on the fact that our traffic
Yeah, but you said you
consultant
want
it's
0,
unsafe.
Michael. That's not rational.
Not at all.
You think 0 is rational?
At the very first meeting, I asked you to get rid of all the parking spaces and make it
But do you
green
think that's
space.
rational?
Excuse me, let me finish, please, Mr. Zatara. I asked you to get rid of it so there was more green space, because that whole site right now is still a sea of asphalt. You resisted every time adding any more real green space each time.
We added a, Michael, we added a park.
pocket park. We added a pocket park.
Agreed.
There was
And
18 parking spaces.
And we still don't see anything too crowded there. I've never seen the site fully parked. I tell you what, let's stop the back and forth. We'll just go ahead and read the resolution, whoever it's assigned to, and we'll take a vote.
But I have one more question. Why would she have in her comments to go from 4 parking spots to 3, from 5 to 4, and now you want 0? I don't understand that. Aren't you the chairman?
Excuse me, if you did not hear me say it before, I said from the very beginning, the first time I saw the final plan that we had, which this has gone on 3 years, but let's not blame the planning board on that, because you're fitting in a lot of stuff into a very tiny spot. It's also on the record several times from me and other colleagues that even though you're saying that there are other sites and he knows how all this works, et cetera, each of those sites is different from this. Every one of those sites is different. Particularly the one on Route 9 that's further down in Wappingers or wherever it is. That's a huge area of empty parking around there. This is not the same kind of site. That's the truth in terms of how I look at it. And we also had Ms. Lavarnway of DC Planning say for the same reasons that the spots should be eliminated or reduced down further. If you can get our traffic engineer to recant his statement, go down to 3 spots. But his statement that he thinks that it's unsafe is where I have it in my head. And again, I tried to draw it, but unlike a regular drive aisle, which there's one going one way, one going another, you have different areas of parking now to this area. And centering it with the 4, I think actually hurt it, to be honest with you, because you moved down the space that's closest to where you exit
We're happy to
and through there.
3, and we'll shift them to the east.
The resolution, I believe, right now, as proposed, says to keep it at 3.
The resolution.
To reduce it down?
Right. The resolution is based on past discussions of the board, and I was trying to count this whole time. I've been doing my own counting, and I thought 3. So we made a condition with 3. It does say to 3 and centered. That's where the condition is. But again, this is a working document. It's the board's document.
If it passes with reduction to 3, that's what they're saying they would be willing to do, I believe. So who has this resolution?
I do.
Did I ask for public comment?
You did
You
ask
did,
for
yes.
public comment
We
earlier.
did not
We
have
can
any?
see if there's more.
So we need to close the public hearing before we
Does
take
Joe want to say
action.
anything?
We do.
May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution to grant conditional site plan approval, Ready Coffee, resolution number 2021-15A. Whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby waives the requirement for a 6-foot wide sidewalk for the utility path from the proposed new building to the dumpster, as it is an interior sidewalk which is intended to be used by staff, and a compliant pathway is provided elsewhere on the project site. And be it further resolved that the planning board hereby approves the site plan set and authorizes the chair, or is authorized designee, to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, approval by the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health for the methods of water supply and wastewater disposal. 3, approval of the site plan set by TEG Credit Union as evidenced by the authorized representative of TEG Credit Union signing the site plan set. 4, approval by the attorney to the planning board of a cross-access easement with TEG Credit Union and recordation of the same with the Dutchess County Clerk. 5, revision of the site plan set to remove the westernmost parking space in the grouping of 4 spaces at the northern end of the project site and to recenter the remaining 3 spaces. 6, revision of note 6 on sheet T1 to read as follows. This site plan is for drive-through serving beverages and commercially prepackaged items, including snacks, food, and grab-and-go items, or items that require no or minimal assembly, but no cooking at the time of customer order. Made-to-order food or meals cooked on premises at the time of order are not proposed nor permitted as part of this approval and will require a site plan amendment. 7, revision of sheet T1 to include a note 7 to read as follows. Any changes to the use, function, or appearance of the building shall require a site plan amendment. 8, revision of the site plan set to include a note that Kelvin values will not exceed 3,000 K. 9, revision of the site plan set to include a note that light pole bases will be painted black. And 10, revision of sheet AP-1 to note that the opaque glass will be light gray.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Whitman, could you please call the roll?
Do you want discussion first? Or?
Any further discussion?
No.
Can you please call the roll?
Yes.
Mr. Waters?
No.
Ms. Wasser?
No.
Mr. Veith?
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliver?
Aye.
Mr. Gershio?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dexter?
Aye.
Chairman Dupree?
Nay. And I will write up a report to send to county planning. You don't need to override them?
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
They needed 5, yeah.
The big project of the night. You're up. The next application is workshop. We're through with public comment periods. And this is a matter of first impression for some of us up here, but for others, we've been working with you for a long time.
Revised impression.
Yes, this is an application for a hotel to be located on a parcel owned by the Culinary Institute. The hotel is gone revisions, so that now it more or less resembles I might want to call it a deconstructed hotel, so that it's more villas than big building with a center hallway where you go to each side of the door, et cetera. And let's say that we've gone through many discussions with Ms. Moss, who has opined that there was some worries because these are for sale villas, that these were not that these would be more residential single family. But by using building code definitions, Tad is satisfied that this still makes the lodging facility, so that big, huge kahuna is, ka-choo, gone past us. And let me turn it over to you guys now.
All right, well, good evening. Michael Zarin Steinmetz on behalf of NR International. Good to be back, and we're looking forward to go through the review process and this evolving transformational project. Here tonight with our development team. To my left is Brent Reynolds, the CEO of NRI. Lou Dorso,
Behind you.
Lou, backstop in case, Chief of Construction, Development Officer. With me also tonight from Labella is Chris Lapine and Samantha Urban and Tom Johnson, who's been doing our traffic from Labella. Also Michael Gotti from Gensler, and Michael Barnacle, landscape architect for the project. So we threw a lot of paper at you. We hope. Sorry. Still a lot of trees out there. We didn't kill as many as, not many, but we've described in the application that, as you've seen, we've gone through a number of changes consistent with what's happening in hospitality. The investment has increased. The room count is pretty much the same. The massing and the buildings are smaller, as you can see, and we think it better integrates with the natural environment. And I'm going to let Brent in a second do a little more detailed on the rationale and what motivated us to make the necessary changes. During this hiatus in which this team has been working nonstop, we've been having significant consultations, as some of the people on staff of the town and others know, with the Department of Transportation, with representatives from the fire district on compliance, with a number of the conservancies, the environmental conservancies, with the DEC, obviously with the CIA, also with many investment and hospitality experts in creating and formulating this plan. So we're excited to show you where we've arrived. We're also very excited to get your feedback. I mean, this is the first time many of you have seen this revised project. In particular, Chairman touched on, I want to thank Tad and various people in the town, the staff who worked with us on the zoning issue. It was, I think, a good dialogue, and We went into significant detail looking at the New York State Business Code and the definitions and the like. And I think we are agreeing that, this is a resort hotel that is offering.
Yes, wait, we are agreeing it's a resort hotel.
Excuse me?
We are agreeing it's a resort hotel, yes.
Okay, that meets the criteria of the code. I also want to thank those in the town that accompanied us to our meetings with the DOT. We had a number of meetings with DOT that Tom Johnson will explain in coming up with the off-site improvements, or at least proposals for the off-site improvements that we'll make before you today, and you're a traffic consultant. So without further ado, I'm not going to get into the all the structure of this and the model. We're here to answer any questions. Please just let us have it. We're here to answer, and those questions we can't answer tonight. One thing we do promise is we will be responsive, and we will get back to you as you've seen we've done before, in detail on any question or any issue that arises that we're not prepared tonight. We do want to move the process, and that's obviously as much on us. So what we'll do tonight is Brent's going to start with an overview of history, where we've been, and the rationale for the design. Then Gensler's going to present the revised architectural overview slides, and then Labella will present the technical issues with respect to the site plan, getting into SWIPs and issues of the variances and grading and some of those types of issues that we're raising. And Tom Johnson will also, I should have said before Labella, will quickly go through the traffic improvements, that off-site traffic improvements. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Brent. Thank you again. We look forward to a robust
Move
discussion.
the microphone, because that's how we're broadcasting.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So,
You can also use the handle.
Yeah.
okay. So, Michael, considering we've been here before, how much detail would you like me to go into with regards to the history, just to be conscious of everybody's time? As little as possible. Okay, great. So
30,000 foot.
30,000 foot. So
Top level.
So I think, as you all may recall, we started this process to fulfill a need and provide a quality hospitality offering in the community. As we got into the investigation of the site, further studying the market, we realized that there is a tremendous opportunity to create and capture the market segment where we can provide and introduce those clienteles back into the community through extensive programming. So we looked at this from a hospitality offering that originally started with a need around the culinary, the community, on a 1 to 2 night type stay. It has further evolved through our studies to be more of a resort destination programming offering, and we're looking at that 4 to 5 night stay. That, coupled with what the consumer trends are around and in hospitality of what they want. A lot of this came out of the COVID offering. You're seeing more and more of the consumers looking for that independent villa. They want that privacy, but they want that interaction with the hospitality offerings. So that started our reevaluation process from the hospitality offering of one large building, double loaded corridor, traditional type product, into something more that was villa style, allowed us to fulfill those current consumer needs, coupled with the evaluation and the studies that went on with the site. The site is extremely complicated with the various restrictions of where we can build, where we can put the infrastructure, where we can put the structures. So doing that with the overall vision of creating the least impact to the site, we've come up with the current design where we sit today. So again, it was a result of an evolution of understanding the market, putting that together with the offering of what the site restrictions are. So that's I wouldn't say 30,000 foot evolution, 100,000 foot evolution, but that's really where we ended up in terms of an overall programming. Now, just taking that a step further, the premise by which we do a lot of our resort development and planning is based around the community. and based around the programming that we offer. So we like to tell, when we go in and present a project, we basically are saying our offerings are outside the four walls. We like to create a nice habitat by which the consumer can stay, but really the majority of the time when they're with us is outside. They're doing the programming both on property and off property. So we've embarked with various members of the community to look at things that we can do, not only within our offering, within the culinaries programming, but around the community. Opus 40, the Locust Creek Estate, so on, and working on that various programming. So again, we are trying to push our consumers out into the community, get that programming, and in order to capture that, again, that's pushing us up to that 4 to 5 day stay. We've seen that historical trend within some of our other resort offerings, that we are in that 4 to 5 day, so we can do that extensive programming. So again, that's really how this has evolved to where we sit today in a more villa style hotel. I think relative to what we're looking at, we don't have a golf course, we don't have a beach, but we've got the woods, we've got the Hudson River, and we've got the extensive amount of offerings around the community, and we're going to push that in, coupled with the culinary focus. So as we go through this site plan, we'll walk you through the various elements, but again, it's to capture that consumer for that longer period of stay.
All right, so thank you, Brent. I'm going to then go right to our presentation here. Give me a second.
By the way, we do have a wealth of historic and recreational experiences offered up here. And you're right, if you can have one place to stay. And Hyde Park is actually rather central to that. If you think about it, you could go to Lyndhurst down in Westchester, or Boscobel, or one of the others, or you could go all the way up to Olana. And still, it's just a day's drive back and forth here. So if you had a nice place to stay, particularly one that's, as you called it, an independent villa, you can go across to the Gunks. There's a lot of actual activities here, particularly recreational ones.
We really are interested in that type of thing, and I think well, let me take a step back. As I like to discuss within our team, what we believe is the most successful offerings are high impact, low cost, right? Those tend to be the most authentic. So when you try to fabricate something within your own property, it doesn't work, right? People can read through that. The consumer can read through that. So if we can really go out and provide those offerings and make it a seamless experience, people come back and again. We found that repeat customer. We found that you go from a traditional 10% repeat to up into the 20%. They don't have enough time to do it in a short period of time,
Right.
so they come back.
I know Dutchess County Tourism has given us figures before over the years, and I believe that what they call historic tourism, visiting just the historic sites like the FDR, et cetera, is actually on the wane. Recreational is on the rise because you can have young families where you can go biking and hiking, et cetera. But they said that the best combination is when you have both, which we do, but we don't really always have great accommodations. So this is, I know, something that many people, leaders in the county, would be very happy if this is approved, I should maybe say, but once this is approved, they'll be very happy because there's a need for better accommodations here.
There is, and we want to pull that in. So if you look at FDR and the Park Services, one of the things that we're working about is not only a tour over there, but bringing those services in for the families on campus, right? Having something as simple as a late evening fireside chat, right? A fire pit chat with the kids. Connecting our trail system with their trail system. So really it's that full integration that's going to make us successful in this offering.
We hope so. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries, no worries. This is great. We have a mantra here. We say we see a new place. You can kind of, building on what Brent said about this kind of effortlessly blending culinary arts. Certainly the CIA is a huge part of this, right? And food is a major element in how we're pulling together the overall amenities programs and such. The hearth is something we came up with as a focal element in the structures we're going to be creating here on this site. But here you say it says celebrating the local. This is about a place that's already a beautiful place. One thing we discovered when we walked around the site was everywhere you turn, everything you see is pretty spectacular. And you can kind of see here at the bottom, we're going to be combining those natural elements with the architecture, and that's the whole thing. It's meant to feel like this might have been here a long time ago, or there might have been foundations here a long time ago, and we're kind of building upon those. We're also going to be looking at finding specific elements on the site, and we've done a very extensive scan of the overall site to find natural elements that we're going to be taking advantage of while we really dig deep and design each individual structure as we work our way around the site. So everybody's familiar with the site here. The bigger part of the site is delineated here at number 1. You can see the Cocoa site here on this area here, and you see St. Andrews is where we'll be entering, but you guys are all familiar with that, so we'll jump forward. Actually, I wanted to do this. All right, so the master plan, CIA has a responsibility to update their master plan every 10 years. What we've done is we've taken a satellite image, we've now updated the overall master plan site and added our development here pending your overall approvals. But now this will be kind of a final version of the master plan for the entire CIA complex. I threw this in to show you that from the Hudson River, you're not going to see much. One of the things we changed about the original design was none of our buildings are going to be higher than 40 feet now. Originally, you may recall, we had a 60-foot allowance that we were going to be building to. With the advancements in the design that Brent described, all these buildings have come down in scale, as you could imagine they would. Spread out a little bit more, but certainly bringing down the scale, and you'll see that a little bit in the sections we're going to show. And then this is an aerial shot of what you're going to see, if you're flying above here, which we're not because we're not going to have a helicopter. But this is the next iteration of the design, and this is what we're going to be showing you a little bit more about today.
I want to interject for one quick second. Yeah. We did this image originally just to show how from every angle you really aren't going to see the project, right? FDR, the Culinary, Route 9, and the Hudson. So it's within the canopy and within the confines of the perimeter.
So here's our master site plan. We're going to be bringing this back up with the Labella team in a bit. But this is just overall. You may recall we were looking for some accommodations to build in the setbacks, and some other things we were asking for. We've eliminated all of those. Brent mentioned the wetlands, the property line setbacks, the easements, the pre-contact sites that we're dealing with here. We have a very specific buildable area on this site. So that's why you see the kind of meandering plan here of buildable area, but that actually worked really well for us as we were planning this. It actually makes sense for us to kind of make our way around that way instead of trying to create a grid or trying to create something. This has a very natural feel based on what we had to accommodate as we were designing. We also felt like, and I've said it before, we needed to create a plan and develop a site plan that worked in concert with the natural terrain. Worked around the existing conditions. A lot of our inspiration architecturally, you'll see in some of the images, has come from architects that have taken those things and worked with what's there. So you might have seen that. One of the things we want to point out here, which was an important element of this entire site, was to connect the hiking trails from the CIA and the Roosevelt. So you'll see that we've picked up these trails that you see working their way through the Roosevelt here, and they start down in here in the CIA, and we're going to be creating paths and elements through here that make this a very, very exciting passageway to go from the CIA to the Roosevelt.
I'm sorry, just real quickly, the trails on the Culinary Institute, are those open to the public?
Yes, we've discussed that.
Are they open to the public now? Survey says no, they're not.
No, they said.
So if you're going to be connecting to the trails, you're going to have to make, if they're really going to connect, they're going to have to be open to the public. Now, this has been a contentious issue with our recreation, our Trails Commission, Trails Committee, from the Hyde Park Recreation Department.
Yeah.
The CIA trails are not open to the public.
But they will, I will indicate. They
Once
will be
we-
open.
once
Just getting you on the record now, sorry, that's why.
Okay. Go on the record.
So moving forward, this is part of the set that you guys have. You can look at the programming at your leisure. But some of the big upgrades or updates to the plan that you'll notice: the main buildings, a very reduced scale. The main greeting is going to be an entry and greeting reception concierge area. There'll be a main lounge, a retail grab and go, a bar, a 3-meal dining area, and a show kitchen. So essentially, that's going to be one of the buildings you see as you get up and enter the main entryway here. That's this building on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, it's going to be our ballroom, our major event structure, and pre-function space with a kitchen. I mentioned before, when we first walked the site, we were kind of overwhelmed with how spectacular the site actually is. And you can kind of see we've cut some sections here. Again, it's hard to see on the screen, but you have the drawings that we sent. As you look to the south of this site, the Marici Kill comes way down. So we've taken advantage of those views as we walked around. We took a lot of pictures and said, boy, this is the right place for these type of elements. That's in section AA here. So we have a high point where we have most of our structures. This is looking to the south in this direction. Another section we cut we thought was important is Route 9A here is well bermed naturally. As you work your way across and through or heading north on Route 9, you won't be able to see any of this from Route 9 at all. It's a natural berm you can kind of see as it works its way here and then comes down toward the river. And then this last section we've cut is in the location of our old parking garage. I'll talk about that in a second. But we have an amenities building and a pool, and we think this is a pretty spectacular place for that as well. We're doing sun studies right now to make sure we maximize that location on the site as well.
Can I also just touch on one thing, because I think it's important?
Make sure you use the microphone, just so people on the TV
Yeah, if you can go back to that.
The section.
So, this is all one entity, one resort, with different accommodations. The villas that you see on the west side will have full access to all the amenities, all the hotel amenities, all the spas and the like. The way it's going to be structured is each of these units will have a small footprint, but everything in between will be common area maintained by the resort. So all the trees and all the natural settings in between those units will not belong to the villa owner. They will be maintained as common area. So our intent is to maintain the woods, the forest, the natural environment behind it. On the side setbacks, there's a lot of stone behind. We want to preserve that. We don't want backyards. We don't want fire pits. We don't want people having tables. We want to keep the privacy. We want to create that real natural wooded feeling. So I think that's important to point out.
So the foundation of the structure is where the owner
Is the
that's
sub
owner
is the
owns
s-
it.
that- exactly.
Everything else is
Mostly everything
resort.
else is going to be preserved and be retained and owned by the resort as common area and maintained by the resort facilities manager.
One other thing in these sections, I mentioned before this comprehensive scan that we had done of the site. We had a drone pilot out there. Somebody helped us get us out there. Thank you. But we scanned it, and what you see in these sections is actually the line of the trees that are on each one each one of those sections. We're able to cut it that way, so you can actually see how the canopy of the trees is 2, 3, maybe 4 times the height of the buildings that we're going to be building here. So those lines you see in the section are the actual tree line that's on site today. As we move forward, we're excited to kind of show you where this has gone. You may remember the last time we were showing you, there was, I think we had about 100 room hotel building, multiple stories. Felt a little less than what we were trying to accomplish, or what we're trying to accomplish now. A little bit more commercial. This is considerably less commercial than that. And one of the main ideas is our basic architectural framework. I alluded to it before. It's about possibly having discovered a foundation wall on site and building upon those. So in some cases, we may actually be able to do that with existing rock formations and such. We have our structural engineers looking at that now. But in other cases, I think what we're going to try to do is create it with the natural materials on the site and actually make it feel like maybe some of those foundation walls were here, and we're going to build on top of them. So again, these are images that we've put together of the entry sequence. One of the things we're thinking about too, we want our customers to feel When they come off of Route 9, they've kind of passed through a portal, and they're no longer on the busy, frenetic Route 9. And they've kind of entered this other world behind the walls. So this is a view as you approach, come up here, and you're going to have a drop-off area in the front. So you see that view here, and then looking back at the ballroom and event space, that's what you see in this one down here. Moving forward, as you go to the back, obviously we have some amazing existing topography as you fall down toward the river. We're going to take full advantage of that. In a lot of cases, we're going to leave the natural terrain, as you can see here, carve our circulation through there, create some open lawn areas for weddings and events. And then down here at the bottom, you see another iteration of that aerial plan, not as bright as the other one. So.
We've met, just so you all know, we've met with Scenic Hudson. That's Scenic Hudson's. We will stay out of the easement. We are going to be complying with all criteria of the easement. In fact, we met today with them again for the third time and have a good working relationship.
For everyone, Scenic Hudson has a 100-foot scenic view shed easement along the way. So, and I haven't seen the easement before, but I believe that some selective thinning occasionally is permitted, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Talking to them.
Some selective pruning.
Another major element of this entire development, and something that goes in line with what's expected now when you do development at all, is the level of sustainability. And Brent's company is adamant about that. And in fact, we have to filter just about everything we do through a sustainable lens. So we're going to be taking advantage of our roof lines. You may remember this from the last time we presented. We're finding other areas where we can take advantage of photovoltaics, rainwater harvesting and storage, and a vegetative roof whenever we can. So all of those things are being considered as we develop the detailed designs of each of the structures on the site. We'll run through this fairly quickly. We're excited, about the modifications we were able to make. You'll recall that in this area up here, there was a large parking garage. We've eliminated that. Now we're going to be accommodating the parking with a surface lot over here that is screened from Route 9. Again, you won't see this, and we have some precedent images here. We may get into that a little bit more down the line. This was the old parking garage. And for the residences, just to keep this moving and open it up for questions, the residences, as Brent alluded, again, not to be ostentatious or gaudy. It's really about doing as much as you can with as little as you have. We don't want to remove materials from this site. We want to use what we find on this site. We're going to be working with the structural engineers. The modifications we're going to, or the individuality of each of the villa locations is going to depend on the topography in those areas. So each villa will have to have a different structural foundation system. But we're trying to, again, make the architecture blend seamlessly with the natural environment. Feel like they belong here in the Hudson Valley. The shapes of the buildings we're taking from a lot of the architectural precedent, and some distinctive lines we're trying to carve as we create these buildings. You guys want to add anything?
So as you come into the site, go back to the site plan if you can for a second. So I think an important distinction here as well is whether you're looking at the villas on plan, call it south at the bottom of the page, or the ones closer to the Hudson, they are going to be very similar in architecture. Mm-hmm. And the villas that are, let's call them closer to US 9, will really only have 3 models, right? We'll have the 2-bedroom villa, the 3-bedroom villa, 4-bedroom villa, pre-designed in a similar form and fashion as the villas up and around the main hotel core. We're also working with a FF&E provider, the furniture provider, that will have the same packages throughout every product. So really you're not going to see a distinction between one villa type and another villa type other than potentially the size. So everything is going to be uniform and will blend in with the current core hotel amenity. We've created those 2 buildings that Michael was talking about where he has the cursor now. That's really going to be our hub, right? So as you come into that, you're going to have an overstimulation of all of the activities and programming that's going to be going on in there. And then the guest will go out from there. So as you drive in there, you're going to see our bakery, our cafe, our retail shop, our main lobby with the teaching kitchen, the production kitchen, the restaurant lounge, private dining room. Then it's going to be married with the event space, the back of house space, and we actually have a vertical farm in there as well. So you have a tremendous amount going on, which is at a higher elevation going down the event lawn. And we will draw the consumers back at various times throughout the day. So that becomes the core activation within the core of the site. So I just wanted you guys to understand that there is synergies from a design perspective, a programming perspective, and a use perspective throughout the entire site. It's really just one overall program.
Those of you that may not have seen it in the application, all villas be mandatory in the rental program.
Be mandatory what?
Mandatory to be in a rental program.
In other words, while they're owned by individuals or families, they can only use them
No,
so
just
much
in
of the
here.
year. The rest of the time it has to go back into the rental
Population.
program. And before we go on, Mr. Reynolds, just asking you a question. Did I hear you say that you're using the same FF&E supplier more or less for all the villas? So the furnishings will be similar in each building?
Correct.
So like a hotel?
Exactly.
Just getting that in there again for the record.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
So the owner is buying a property that is designed and furnished by someone else and will be rented to other people.
Correct.
Good luck, okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
Well, they'll get to use it certain amounts of the year, but yes, they will purchase the lot. Oh, and I should say it differently, purchase a leasehold interest in the lot, put it into the rental program. A general contractor from us will build it, or a development manager will build a uniform thing, furnish it, then they'll be in the mandatory rental program. They'll get to use it, but 65% of the year must be in the rented.
65%.
65%.
I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to go through the materials yet.
Yes, 65.
So the architecture for these villas are going to be similar. The only difference will be what the typography gives you, whether it has a walkout second, lower level or whatever like that, number of bedrooms, things like that.
Exactly.
But the overall look will all be similar.
Correct.
Quick question on
And we have to do that, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No.
I know.
Yeah, we have to do that to be able to create that consistency for our marketing to the general
I
consumer.
understand. Yep.
Regarding the rental program, now will the individual owners be renting out to visitors, or will NRI take care of everything? And
We will be
manage
running that
percentage?
through our management program. They will put it into the rental program.
And how does that work if there's several units? How do you choose that? Which units will be rented?
All of them will be.
I mean, suppose they're not at a particular time. Suppose
Do you
there's
mean
an
if you're
open.
coming to me saying I want to rent a unit?
Yeah, no. Suppose
Vacancy.
vacancies.
How do you
They're-
pick?
they're-
How do you
yeah. How do you
pick?
pick?
How do you
How do you
pick
pick?
which one
You know.
Actually, what you just said is correct. He's saying, if I'm going to come rent to you, I want to rent a place, and you have 50, how do you prioritize out of those 50? Or is there any prioritization? Is it just random?
No. So typically what happens in these scenarios, if you're coming and you want to just stay in one of the hotel villas down by, let's call it the Hudson River, right?
Yeah.
Where it don't have a kitchen, we would put those in as any hotel management would, right? We will assign those villas. There are a couple that are larger than the others, i.e. a presidential villa. People would select, I want to go to this presidential villa. Now, all of this is available online. Typically, when you get into the units that have 2 or 3 bedrooms with kitchens, you as the consumer are going to pick which one you want, right? Some will be closer. Some will be facing that horizontal farm area and that clubhouse. Some would want to be,
So
closer
it's
with their friends.
location.
Yeah.
Basically.
So you'll pick.
Okay, I just
So we have to do that, so we're not giving priority to, if you're a villa
Right.
owner and you're a villa owner.
That's what
That's
his
what I'm
question was
trying
about.
to, that's what I'm
I
trying
can't give you
to
priority.
get.
Michael's my friend and you're not, and I'm
Right,
giving him all
exactly,
the.
exactly.
So this is a very in-the-weeds question, really truly in the weeds, but will any of the units or all of them have washer dryers?
So the villa units, plan south, will have washer and dryers.
South? You mean west?
West.
With the kitchen.
East.
Now I'm listening to you.
With the kitchens.
So in other words,
Correct.
because with the full kitchens, they'll have washer dryer, but if you're if you're the ones along, closer to the river, those you would
Those do
either
not.
send out like a traditional hotel to have your things cleaned, or you just wait and take them back.
Correct.
No, I'm just, the reason why I'm asking is, I know when we rent rooms that are owned, there's some that, when I'm traveling in the Caribbean, some have washer dryers and some don't, and that's how I choose my priority. It's a lot easier to travel with a little bit bag with just some bathing suits and some shorts that you can wash every day than
Yep.
it is bringing your whole thing for 10 days. So, in other words, the answer is the consumer will have the ability to choose, to an extent, the rooms they want. The
Correct.
villas they want.
Yep.
I've just got a couple more slides and we can open it up. This one will upset the fans of Coco's. We're actually we're gonna clean that up. I know
There are so
everybody's a
many of
big.
those fans of Cocoa.
I'm just kidding. I figured nobody here is that. We've been asked to upgrade this, so yeah, you've seen these slides before. We're gonna put a new facade on this building. We're gonna be using it as a marketing center for us during the construction.
I do want to point out that the architecture proposed
Yeah.
is more reflective of the modernity of the villas themselves with the natural elements. But do remember that in this section of town, there's not a lot of historic product. And just think about the sake brewery across the street, across Route 9, because it's got more money. That's Rob has a traditional design shown with modern touches. I will say that. It looks sort of like Locust Grove, the entrance.
It is the one building you do see.
Yeah,
This will be the one building that everybody sees, and this would be used for sales office temporarily. By that I mean 3 to 4 years. But then after that, it would revert back to whatever the Culinary Institute wants it to be, I assume.
Yes, with a caveat that there's a potential conversation by which we would have that as a management facility long-term. So
Oh.
it would remain in use and operation under our control. So, as the front door to the project. Let me rephrase that, a front door to the project.
Yes, but that makes sense to actually utilize it over
Yeah.
a longer time period, to
And
me.
You brought up an interesting question. I just want to clarify, and it's hard to articulate without the images. The renderings don't do it justice. And what Michael was saying, no. And what Michael was saying is really important. We have embarked on a lot of historic renovations as an organization, and we try to make our architectural design timeless. So we really want to make sure that the base of those buildings, which you see when you drive up, when you walk up to a building, looks like it's been there forever, and then we pull the modern elements out of it, right? Whether that's through the window, through the door, through some type of structure. Interior are going to be the same, right? We're looking at partnering with a large reclaimed wood manufacturer and heart pine provider. We've done that. I've done that out of Lancaster. I know there's a location up here. But pulling out those beams, the capitals, the cleats, what have you, so it's heavy, it looks historic, and then we infuse some elements of modern touches to it. So it looks like it's really been here, and you feel like you're walking into something that, is a discovery, and we just renovated it. So that's really the overall design premise of the project. We didn't get into it, same things within the roads, right? We're not gonna build the road, so to speak. We're going to do what's required, but we want to make it look like an old country road coming into this found opportunity.
Are you still escorting guests around by golf cart?
We are. So the idea is once you arrive, after you arrive, transportation will be walking or by golf cart. And then the bridge that's going over the stream there will be a golf cart pedestrian bridge. We were originally looking, if you guys recall, having the entrance coming across there, but due to our friend's design over here, it turned into this monstrosity that had to go in a different direction. So we changed that to pedestrian and golf cart. So it's something that's more appealing, again, utilizing that pedestrian and golf cart access only.
The bridge you first proposed that would have allowed vehicular transport was really gorgeous, but we all thought it was going to go quickly. It looked really expensive, in other words. to get that old-fashioned look that you're talking about. It was almost like the bridges of Madison County. And it being required to be an open span bridge by DEC meant,
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to have the structure and the life safety, be able to go over it and everything like that.
plus this way, honestly, people, when they want to use their cars, it's to, as you said, getting pushed out into the other areas. And I think it's an enhancement to have pedestrian movement or golf cart movement, either way, inside this area. It's going to keep it quieter and more low-key, what you were talking about, it getting away from the hustle and bustle. You'll be in a more contained environment that's more serene.
That's one of the more beautiful areas of the site, actually, with the stream and the
It allowed a greater preservation of the surrounding area that was being dictated by access drive and associated grading utilities. So
Chris, we can't hear you.
Oh,
oops.
It provided us the opportunity to preserve a lot of the vegetation there and mature trees by narrowing down to a golf path and walkable area. As you can see from our plans, we've really minimized from years ago the disturbance within that 100-foot corridor, also within the 50-foot corridor of the Marici Kill Creek there.
How wide are those roads? I know they're just for golf carts, but
No, they're designed for full access. It'll be through our management.
Yeah, so as Brent was referring to, he is correct. They're designed, the access drives are meant to accommodate the ladder trucks of the fire departments
They have
within
to
the
be.
villas. The actual path going down to the pedestrian bridge is, it fluctuates because we do have a pump station along the way there, so we made it, I think, at 12 feet at one location, and then it narrows back down to 10.
The parking facility up towards the Route 9, I guess, I noticed that the perimeter on the east and I believe west side, you have vehicles, bumper to bumper with no access. Is that
double parking.
Yeah, is that because
because of
your
valet.
golf cart, that's valet, right?
That's valet.
Okay, that.
So that's the
I
whole
just want-
idea, is we
Yeah.
restrict the driving by controlling.
Yeah, and then in one of the renderings, though, I did see in the courtyard section that you had vehicles down in between the two main structures.
That's just for drop-off.
Okay,
Arrival and departure.
okay.
what do you do in winter?
Yeah, what do you do, what do you do in the wintertime? People are gonna ride in golf carts?
You mean in terms of getting around the site?
Yeah, when it's
Yeah.
cold out?
Heated.
No, you have enclosed golf carts. The electric golf carts, they're enclosed.
So none of, the villas will have cars parked in that, what's kind of looks like a driveway?
Those villas will have a garage for a car as well as a golf cart. The villas that are closer to the Hudson do not have any parking.
Okay, so is there gonna be parking down in the culinary like you used to have it, and then shuttle people over?
So, yeah, so basically the idea is you will come into the core hotel area, get out of your vehicle, valet will take it and bring it back to this parking lot. Unless you're checking into one of these leasehold villas close to US 9, where you want to drive directly into your villa, park it, and then utilize the golf cart. The only thing that we've talked about with the Culinary Institute is overflow parking on their campus.
So you're really only anticipating one car per villa when people come to stay?
Correct.
Unless people are sharing it.
Right.
I mean, it could be two.
Because, I mean, again, just looking very quickly at the site plan, I mean, there's probably only room for two cars in, most of those driveways, but if that's what, your model is, where it's, most times it's gonna be one, and I guess it's all right.
And they do have a garage as well.
Correct.
So.
You can also restrict that as the owner.
Did I still see the H on top of the garage structure?
No, we got rid of that. There's no garage structure anymore. Yeah, that page
What
was,
is that?
that page was shown
It's
as the former.
Okay, so
That
that's.
guy.
You probably shouldn't have shown it, 'cause we were all like,
You probably
"What
shouldn't
is
have
this?"
shown it.
Why did they, all right, yeah.
Because I
Got
took
it.
notes
You can
on
take it out.
so.
I can take it out right now.
I think the intent of showing that was to demonstrate the measure where.
Could you use the microphone, please?
Oh, sorry. I think the intent of depicting that was to show that within our 100-foot corridor, we need a waiver for that disturbance that the degree of disturbance from the parking garage is significantly more than what we are proposing now in terms of the pool and pickleball court in that location. And that was just to give you an idea from the
So now
visual
that's
perspective.
a pool and pickleball?
Yes.
Okay.
No structures. in
No
the
structures
setback.
there.
Okay.
By the way, I have to add something because I can be contrarian at times. Yes, you have you've created areas where you have less disturbance, but overall your site disturbance is much, much, much bigger than what it was proposed when you had the single structure. Just want to throw that in there too, because we're talking about preserving lots of things. You talked about seeing all the tree canopy. There'll be trees removed in order to have this. Just your access around there. I'd spoken to Mr. Zarin before. On an earlier plan, you were showing buildings right up next to your setback. I mean, right next to it. You can't you can't build a building and grade, et cetera, without violating into those setbacks. So I think all that got changed. And I'm not saying that it's bad to have more land disturbance overall. For the goals of what you're talking about for your clientele to make this really successful, I think you have to have really more of what you're talking about now, because it's privacy. And that's what, Airbnbs wouldn't be as successful as they are if people didn't want to go into an actual kind of living environment of a home and have privacy at the end of the day, not share walls, not hear somebody else doing whatever. That didn't sound right. But you know what I'm talking about, so. Anyway, sorry, continue.
That's all right. Yeah, only a couple more. There was a couple of ancillary structures on the site that that have been designed. This last page represents those. A similar signage package will have a monument sign as you work your way in. Again, this is the check.
We call it the Flintstones. That's the Flintstones entrance. That's the Flintstones
That's
entrance.
signage.
All right, it's on the deck. I can get rid of it. As you work your way in, there's a check-in point. This is a good example of utilizing some of the site natural
The
elements of the site.
Flintstones entrance, that's what we called it.
Yeah.
With the big
Is
rock
that
up
what you
top,
did?
yeah.
There you
Look, I
go.
mean, it's pretty cool. I had to look to find where it was. It's set back from Route 9. So.
Yeah, it's set back here, in this here. A greenhouse, Brent alluded to that. That's being implemented inside one of the buildings we're working on, and then an amenity building in the center here around the villas. And then materiality, this is something you've seen in the last presentation as well. Simple materials, again, all local stones. We're going to look to use a lot of the natural elements on the site, and that's all we have.
So before I turn it over to the consultants to speak, I just wanted to have the board think about this, because this is a large development, considering how much land disturbance there is with a number of building units. And there might be a temptation to say we should pause deck this and do a scoping session on potential impacts. But in this instance, we've already evaluated not the same layout, but a hotel project in the same site. That's number one. Number two, from the environmental assessment form that they provided us, there's really no endangered, threatened, rare species here except for the sturgeons, I believe, that are down in the river area. And so I think the major impact we would be looking at would really be traffic. And Mr. Sotero and I and the applicants have gone back and forth with the Department of Transportation, who are really satisfied, I'm happy to say, with what's the intersection improvements that are proposed right now. Even Department of Transportation recognize that part of what's happening here is that because they're kind of the last ones in on a busy intersection, you have Saki, you have Bellafield, across the way, and there's triggers when they have to improve intersections based on daily vehicle trips. But until then, there wouldn't have to be any improvements otherwise. So it kind of fell on these guys to sort of rectify other people's problems. And again, I have to really compliment DOT, which I don't always do, let's be honest, but really compliment them because they recognize this, and we were able to work out something that it will degrade the intersection, the way it operates at certain times of the day. You can't stop that. Without having Jetsons people fly up over with jetpacks, you cannot stop that. But we minimized, I believe, Tom, I'm sort of doing what you're going to talk about, I'm sure, but you minimized a lot of the delays that were initially proposed, or we thought they were going to be there. Because there were different intersections with the crazy island in the middle of the road. That was scary looking, but at any rate, we did explore a lot of options with this, and so I think I can say, and Pete will weigh in, but the DOT's happy with this. So I would like to, in other words, suggest that as we frame our heads around doing seeker, that we just considered this to be, we'd be looking at traffic obviously, but that we just do a standard sort of expanded EAF given the areas we know. Because we do scoping, you have to have public scoping sessions now, it takes forever, and we already know what the likely impacts are. You're not going to disagree with me, I know.
No.
Let me phrase that.
That sounds good.
You're not.
Michael, so the entrance is back across from St. Andrews then? It's a
Yeah.
four-way?
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
here.
okay, yeah, because at one
I
time,
can
we were
go
moving it
And
down the
Mike,
street.
would you
Mr.
like
John,
Tom
was like,
to
let's
quickly?
go ahead and have Tom get into this, because the traffic is the biggest impact from this. And particularly now that also, I should add, prior to this, we had balloon tests done, et cetera, for the past proposal, but that's because it was a
Yep.
traditional tall hotel.
That's right.
As you said, you've lowered all the building heights, and they're now nestled in, and you, even though there's maybe more land disturbance, you're also following the contours with less grading, et cetera, so it really will be tucked in and out, so you're not going to see it like you did before. That's exactly right.
Well, thank you very much for explaining what's going on here. Yeah, so our traffic study focused on 4 intersections along Route 9. Started up at North, the Hyde Park Mall, and then down at West Dorsey. And the recommended improvements basically just focused, were for this intersection of Route 9 opposite St. Andrews Road, where the site comes in. On the screen here, Route 9 goes across the screen from south to north, just to orient ourselves. This is St. Andrews Road. The site's up here, and this is where the site driveway is going to come out, directly opposite St. Andrews Road. So the improvements for the intersection include a site driveway will be 2 lanes coming out into the intersection. The first lane will be a shared left turn and through movement. The outside lane will be a right turn only lane. Most of the traffic will be oriented to the south, so we gave them a right turn lane. Northbound on Route 9, you have this median that goes through the whole way on Route 9. We would cut into that to make a left turn lane into the site. So this part would be cut away, and it will get its own traffic head to turn in. On St. Andrews Road, going westbound, you have a 3-lane approach. There are no geometric improvements for this leg. However, the middle lane, there's 2 left turn lanes right there now, and a right turn. The middle lane would be restriped to allow through movement into the site. No changes southbound, still a left turn lane and 1 through lane. Because of the 4th leg to the intersection, the traffic signal's got to be taken out. Brand new system will be put in. And with that signal system will come now pedestrian crossings and pedestrian heads, push buttons on each of the 4 quadrants. So that, in a nutshell, is what's going to happen at this intersection.
I can add here, by the way, believe me, this was not the first proposal. There were lots of different plans that, and DOT asked to consider at one point, maybe people going, instead of having a left turn out, people taking a right turn going south and then turning around somehow down at West Dorsey or in the middle of the road. And none of those seemed practical or really safe, to be honest with you.
Right, and then they ended up, and when they saw that on the screen, the actual improvement, having to make a U-turn down either at the culinary driveway or even West Dorsey, then they became concerned about the potential for crashes down there. And I also want to point out that there is the secondary driveway down here for emergency access still further down where it is now. Just emergency access.
I think it's probably fair to also mention, I mean, a lot of the ideas came from the town's traffic consultants. I mean, we were taking direction from them, you know, as well as Pete and others. So it was a good collaboration, I think, between ourselves and the DOT.
I agree.
They had probably 6 or 7 people in the room also. On 2 instances. So these are the proposals, obviously subject to your review and, you know,
It's an
comment.
important intersection, and it deserved the scrutiny that it received, to be honest with you.
There's also the emergency. I should mention the emergency for the fire accident. You mentioned that, Tom?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
yep.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Sorry.
So let's start with the consultants. Ms. Franson.
So thank you for the presentation. We're working through materials. It's quite a bit, but we'll provide our comments when we've completed our review. Thank you.
Mr. Sotero?
I took a quick look through the plans just to see, you know, what was in there. So, again, we'll have more comments later. Our primary focus is going to be on the SWIP and erosion control. You did explain one of my questions when I was looking at it was about the parking and the limited amount of parking at each site villa, but you addressed that in, you know, the question and answer. You know, I did notice on the plans that a lot of the roadways were going to be oil and chip That's like your call. I think it's going to be a maintenance headache for you. There's going to be like stones all over the place when you plow in the winter, but again, it's like your development. It's not going to be like a town road, so that's, your call, so.
Yeah, with regards to that specifically, we focused on the oil and chip on the western portion of the project
I
site.
did
where
see
they're
it
not gonna
wasn't,
have
it wasn't
the-
like all over.
Correct. Where we're going to have the consistent vehicular movement, we do have an asphalt
I did
placement.
see that,
Yeah.
yes, I did see that. So, but again, it's your project, so if that's, even if the portions you're proposing oil and chip, that's, like your call. The only other thing I would mention, if you could go back to the slide that Tom had with the Easy Street parcel.
Coco's.
Yeah, there you go. So I didn't see on the plans, I'm sure that there's going to be, but there's going to have to be an access from your main road coming into the Easy Street parcel, to get to that. So I assume that that'll be, well, I assume you're going to have that, right?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Coco's is referring.
Coco's, whatever.
He just showing his.
I mean, back in the day, it was Easy Street, it was hopping, baby, I'm telling you. Hopping,
He's not joking.
hopping. It'd be nice if you brought back the Easy Street brand too, but that's all right.
So let's call it.
But anyway, so I assume there'll be an access driveway or
Yeah,
something?
It's existing.
we do show a construction access going from Easy Street to our internal access drive on our plans.
Okay, maybe I missed it then. And I'm gonna go continue, I'm gonna ask, on this application, I asked it when the hotel project was before the board back in, I think, 2010, 2011. I know that we're not going to get a connector road over to the plaza because we've got, the strip that's owned by the National Park Service. However, I think there should be a discussion about having a cross-access agreement with the plaza to your north to allow them to use a portion of your access road to get out to the traffic light. It is impossible at certain times of the day to make a left-hand turn out of the plaza, out of, the old, Easy Street, like Coco's. And, I advocated for it before. Back then, we had a much different town government. At that time, they weren't really behind me at that point. But I think it's just something that we should discuss as we go through the process.
So he's referring to Mr. Van Valkenburg. Gardner Van Valkenburg is the owner of, it doesn't really have a name, but it's where Halftime Liquor and the beer store, Darby O'Gill's.
Darby O'Gill's.
I believe Pete has brought this up once or twice before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to bring it up, and if
it's up.
And I understand you probably don't want to do it.
Respond to it, and we'll
Right.
make a substantive response. I know Pete has brought it up, and and it deserves a substantive response. So we will prepare that for the next meeting.
Which I'm sure will probably be no, we don't want to do it, but
There are issues.
Well,
we've had the dialogue.
Again, we're gonna go bring it up and discuss it. That's what, my
Yep.
job is, and that's, so
It's
we're
also
gonna go
something
do
that
it.
DOT did look favorably upon, because they would love to close some of the curb cuts there, causing those left
Yeah.
turns out because it causes delays.
So those are just my general observations at first, and, sounds like a pretty cool project, or it looks like a pretty cool project, so, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Ms. Moss?
I agree with the town engineer. There needs to be some kind of better accommodation for access for that beverage center building. And we'll get into the landscape details and SWIP details a little later on. I was very pleased with the response about the type of structure and the construction and the building code requirements. The certificates of occupancy will definitely be for transient accommodations, and that's how we'll deal with that.
Can you project more? The microphones aren't working, Chris. They haven't worked all night, sorry.
Could someone just summarize?
They're only working to the
She was pleased to see the landscaping elements as well as the elements in your SWIP. She was pleased with your construction language because it'll allow her to have COs as definitely as transient stay.
And then
Part of that was me
the-
translating
and the
Ted,
curb
that was me being Ted Whisperer too. I can
You know,
understand where
that
she was
was
going.
just, and the access.
And the access. She agrees with Pete on the access, that we need to have better access management through Mr. Van Valkenburg's site and former Coco's, your sales site, and the new entrance or exit as well to the hotel.
Yes.
Thank you.
It was a
There we
pleasure
are.
to
We
work.
could-
It was a pleasure to work with Don Westermeyer to figure out how the construction type fits, whether it's a single family or whether it's a transient occupancy, and it's a much higher level for the transient.
Absolutely, you have to sprinkle, that there's a lot of other extra steps toward lodging. So, Ms. Polidoro, comments?
I mean, I've been working on these zoning issues for several months now.
We know. I've been with you.
Glad that they are resolved, and I don't have any comments on the plan at this time.
Colleagues, let me start to my right. Vice Chair Dexter.
Good to see you again. It's been like a year, I think, since you've been here. Again, a lot of work has been done. I love that you worked everything out with DOT. That was a big relief for me. Some of those proposals were just really scary. But I like the idea of how you're approaching it now. When we went on the site visit a year ago, there were some very significant, like, rock outcrops right where the hotel was supposed to go. Are we avoiding those now, or are they?
We're integrating them into
You're
the design,
integrating
so
them.
like by the main entrance.
So they
you'll
become
see-
part of,
Yeah.
of the actual landscape instead of trying to blast
Correct.
them out?
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, in general, I understand what the chairman says. It's, you're actually disturbing more of the site, but less at the same time, which only in planning does that ever make sense, right?
Yes.
I like the concept, and I like all the work that you've done, especially if we can connect all those trails. I keep telling people who are moving into the area, you can almost go from, like from the walkway all the way up to, Columbia County almost. Eventually we will, but these steps will help patch together all of those things. So I'm very happy about that. We'll just see what all the consultants have to say with their technical comments, but in general, this is a great, it's taken a while, right?
Good
This
things.
feels more like Hyde Park. This feels a lot more like what we need around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Oliver?
I would echo, again, what Ann is saying, and extremely preliminary comments, given I have not had a lot of time to really dive into this. But one thing I would agree with Pete is access into the old Coco site from the new entry, I think, is extremely important. And to piggyback off of that, to close the curb cut at Coco's so you can avoid traffic, doing U-turns or coming in and out. And I know there's probably, 100 reasons why it's difficult or virtually impossible to work with your neighbor to the north. But I think it would be extremely beneficial to both parties if you can have that dialogue with them and figure out how you can make both sites work together to use that new intersection. I think that's going to be essential. And then just one comment regarding Michael's comment regarding endangered and threatened species. You may want to look at bald eagle nesting sites in that area. I spend a lot of time on the river, and the population is, robust right now, and I'm sure some of those areas have some bald eagles down there.
There's no hits. I didn't know it was working again, I forgot.
It's not working, so.
We can't hear
we-
you, but
we-
it's going out.
We can't hear, but people watching on TV can only hear if you speak into the microphone.
You can't hear, but people on TV.
Right.
And then they call into you?
That's the buzzing you hear. No.
Those are all the text messages?
There were no hits.
There was no hits
On the environmental
that we
mapper.
saw for bald eagles, and there was no sightings or nesting from their environmental consultant who conducted the site walk here. The one item I do want to say is Indiana bats was of a concern, and the proposal is to cut the trees in the normal
Sorry,
timeframes.
that's
October
always a
31st.
concern.
Chris, you
Any
gotta
tree that-
talk,
any
you gotta
tree that
talk
has
a
roots
little
will
louder.
melt.
It's hard to hear you.
So what he said is that there were no hits on the environmental mapper, either sightings or nesting sites. That noted, that doesn't mean that they don't exist there right now, but bald eagles need to live in an evergreen, like a pine tree or something, on the river's edge. And the nearest location that I know of, I can't say because we're televised, but it's a few miles north of me, and I see there are two boys, and I see the boys flying down as far as me, sometimes lower, but not. Ted, do you see the eagles? Because you're higher up than me, yeah.
And they've expanded a lot. West, I've had them at my house too.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's.
In terms of nesting sites,
Yeah.
I do want to reiterate, there was a site walk as well, and we didn't just rely upon what was
Yeah,
available.
You had
on
environmentalists out there. Tad?
There's a nesting site that's active annually across from Rogers Point, but it's on
Really?
the other side.
Yep.
Okay.
There's one to the south too.
Is
that
there?
I've noticed on our
On our
east
side?
side. Yeah.
All over.
I'm sorry, Chris, we interrupted you.
Nope. Those are my extremely early comments.
Mr. Garcia?
Very large project, wow. I don't really have any comments right now. I would agree with Chris about the traffic in that area. Getting out on Route 9 is a nightmare. And that would be good if you could address that. As of right now, I do remember the last time we talked about this, you were talking about putting pools in at the villas. So,
That's no longer part of the plan.
What?
That's no longer part of the plan.
Okay. I mean, I haven't had a chance to look at the plan, so.
The splash pools are long gone, I think.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no comment right now.
Thank you, John.
Yes.
Ms. Wasser?
Last time you called me, it was a problem. It looks like a very exciting project. I'm looking forward to diving into the materials myself and working together with the whole team. I think the only specific comment was someone talked about the busy and frenetic Route 9. And that's sort of what you see until you hit our front door here in Hyde Park. And I'd like to keep it not frenetic. And part of that is my feeling about what Coco's should represent and look like. I'm thrilled that it's an eyesore. I'm thrilled you're gonna be using it, maybe long term. But that's really my only initial comment right now because I haven't looked at it.
Thank you. Mr. Waters?
Well, again, I have a list of things, but I'm not going to go through them. A lot of them you've answered and stuff, so I'll go through it again at another meeting. But the main focus, my main focus is Coco's, and that is because it's the gateway. And, you know, at one time, I think it was just going to be a possible lease agreement for limited time, and then it was going to be turned over. If it's just refaced, then what happens is it's going to stay here for 20, 30 years. That's just the truth of it. So making it incorporate into something like what you have on the interior would be really appreciated, I think. We've long awaited for something to happen to that. When they were shooting the movie and they made it Rosie Regatta or something, I was like, oh my gosh, that's an improvement. The mouse was an improvement.
It was
No,
horrible.
no, but it was an
Didn't they also
improvement. to
burn
us.
it down as part of the
Yeah,
movie?
exactly. So that's why it was an improvement. That was the improvement.
That was really improvement.
Yeah, so that is the key. That is, since it's a gateway, when you come up Teller Hill there, that is a focal point. And if you're using it as a sales office, it's gonna help you sell your stuff if it looks,
I mean, that's the underlying premise of what we're doing. That is our front door, and that's where we're going to be bringing our consumer
yeah.
before the project's built. So whatever we do there has to represent the project. So that, again, I just want to reiterate, the renderings at this stage
I understand.
don't represent what
Yeah.
the product is. That will mirror whatever we're looking to do within the
Okay.
overall product.
Yeah, because when I saw the rendering, I was like, it doesn't really fit the area, so. But, and that was it for now.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Mr. V?
Yeah, looks like a great project. 16 years ago, when I was chairman of the planning board, we were trying to get traffic off of Route 9 with that road.
you were the chair?
And I was the chairman then.
It was
Yep,
18.
and 18? Who's counting?
Well, you supported me. I do, I remember that.
Yeah,
You
yep.
did, you did.
To try to get traffic off of Route 9, we were going to put roads behind all the plazas.
That's right.
And
Yep.
especially behind Easy Street Coco's. Also, when you're naming the streets down there, if you could name one of them Easy Street, that
Yeah,
gets you a
that'd
little
be
bit
great.
quicker. Okay.
Yep.
And question, Dutchess County water for this site? That's what you're going to be using? How about the sewer?
They tie into, they are tenants to the district created by the CIA.
We got a sewer where
You're tying into.
Goes to Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
There's,
Yes, one of the reasons why this was delayed years was not just COVID and other project changes, but Mr. Reynolds had to deal with the water and sewer boards of Poughkeepsie in order to figure out how to connect, because when you're, even though the culinary is part of the district, a tenant to the district, not part of it, any additions aren't just automatically, here, you're part of it, because even though they're on the CIA property, so he had to go through some hoops that we're not going to describe because they're not really funded here. But he made it through.
All right, good. No other comments? Good luck.
So I've been with this project, it seems like, since its inception. And as you know, I'm very favorable for the project, despite what you saw with our denying an application earlier. In my 17 years on the job here, this is only the second denial we've ever had. That's it. We're not in the, as I've told Mr. Zarin, the planning board in Hyde Park is not in the business of trying to deny projects. We try to work together until we come up with something that we both agree is mutually beneficial, et cetera. And let's be honest, this is a transformative project for our area. The nicest hotel that I know, really between New York City and Albany, is in Hudson. The Mark, the Maker, whatever it's called. I mean, it's only 10 rooms. And it's exquisite, but it's a little teensy jewel box. And it's also not as easy to go up there, stay, and go around the area to see, to explore what you're talking about, your consumers who want to see both historic and recreational resources and experience them firsthand. It's a little different up there. So this is, in other words, I'm guessing that Dutchess County Tourism is probably like so happy that they can't stand it this could possibly be built. And the fact that we have this, Bellafield, Sake Brewery, all in Hyde Park is pretty amazing when you think about it, because we still lack a lot of infrastructure here, that you're kind of borrowing the infrastructure that you can by being in the city and the town. A couple of things we have in the application materials, that La Bella has gone out and done its own traffic analysis, and that there's room for overflow parking at the CIA. This still conflicts with a letter that we provided you, that the CIA does not have enough parking for your overflow events. In addition, and no offense, I'm going to use Mr. Boudreau, I'm using your boss's or your partner's name, but there's correspondence between the owner of Bellafield, T-Rex Development, and the president of the CIA, where the CIA has asked him for a certain number of parking spaces. That's why they first proposed 2 parking decks at the site. So we're going to have to resolve this, and it just being 2 different people saying different things isn't going to work, because you just saw why it didn't work before if we have 2 traffic consultants. So we're going to have to, I think, have our own traffic consultant analyze if you're going to be proposing the overflow parking to see whether or not that he's in agreement.
Yeah, again, our material is so voluminous, maybe some people missed it, but we did go out and do some additional analysis
I just referred to
per
that.
your
I said,
request.
yes, I said that I know that they went out and did more.
Yeah, yeah. So we hope that data is persuasive, that there is, we're looking for 70 spots. I think there was almost 140 plus during an event, during a CIA event, but we're, we know that's a sensitive issue, and we'll
I just want to make
continue
sure that
do
you
what we
function
need.
properly, that's all.
Yeah.
And that we don't clog up
Yeah.
Route 9 by having cars be going around where.
Understood.
Basically, that's it. So, and during ACIA event may be different than having multiple CIA events. Again, if we didn't have the letter from the CIA basically saying they don't have enough parking, this wouldn't be raising its ugly head. So,
Understood.
but it's my responsibility as chairman to get some of this stuff out so that we can continue getting over the road bumps. Otherwise, I haven't seen a lot of any other road bumps ahead. I want to thank you for getting rid of the parking garage and the heliport. Speaking of this being a serene, quiet environment to be operating in, not having a helicopter having over your head a lot is probably beneficial to that. In addition, I think that hiding the parking, or at least disguising it in the surface lot, is actually better, because there are some sensitive spots from the FDR site where you would have seen the parking garage, let's be honest, because it was in the setback. Not that many people go there, but that might have been an issue. You never know with the for historic preservation purposes or resource protection. Other than that, again, because I've been following what you've been doing constantly, I think that the project has improved overall. I do think that the experience, if you're a customer staying there, is going to be enhanced now. I like the fact that you can see your programmatic offerings as you enter in, because that's going to me, by not hiding them and having them up front as you drive through, that gives you an essence of why I want to go there. Hey, I want to see that. I want to go there right now. My first day, maybe instead of wandering around, I'm going to stay just on the site, go walk down and eat at the CIA. So I see a lot of ways where, I hate this word synergy, but there's a lot of synergistic opportunities on this campus. I also like the fact that you've really, when Ann was asking with all the rock outcrops, et cetera, when we were down where the original building was proposed and you could see all those valleys, when you see their plans in detail, they actually kind of zigzag with paths so that you will not be walking straight down with tumbling. You'll be zigzagging this way, which is safer, but more importantly, you're going to be experiencing different viewpoints as you go by. And that's why I also mentioned the Scenic Hudson having the view shed easement. It's my understanding that when you've been talking to Scenic Hudson, they're willing to, for the success of the project, allow some selective thinning out of smaller trees and maybe some branches here and there, because you don't want to have people coming and saying, I'm dying to see the Hudson, and then looking at nothing when it's the best weather. You wanted them to get out and actually see parts of this. So overall, I think the project's great. I think that I had a chance to dig in, but I'm not digging on. I haven't made it all the way through myself based on when we got this. But we'll all have more detailed comments ultimately that we can kind of roll into one big one, both from the board and Bonnie's. Any Victoria has. Pete's are separate. But I haven't, it's funny, I think I maybe have 10 comments, that's about it, and 3 are laudatory, which is pretty good, trust me. But do you want to schedule this to type the action, like, say, at the 19th? Because that gives us all time to continue to dig in. That's a month off. So I'll put you back on the
That'd be more
agenda
for
for the
secret
19th, July
circulation, right?
19th,
So just look at
to
the
type the
EAF
action and
also.
start the circulation process.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for the feedback, and
Well, the initial feedback's very light. Again, I've had a chance to dig through
let's leave
stuff.
it.
Yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want.
It felt good. Let's just say that.
And board, think about hiring the traffic consultant just to review the additional materials. If you guys think you want to now, then we can go ahead and just have a motion to hire.
Well, we had Brenda,
Oh, that's right, he's already been working on this one.
He already is.
So has this been sent to him?
And if there's,
We were focusing on DOT improvements to the intersection with Brenda, not on anything else. But you're right, he's already hired for this application, so we'll just refer some of this.
anyway,
portion
if
to
there's any way, as soon as you can get us the comment letters, technical comment letters, we'd love to be able to respond to some of them before the next meeting, or at least be prepared to respond to them substantively.
Being prepared is probably the best
Well,
idea.
let's just, so we're really going to focus on the EAF is really, because it's going to take a while to go through the plan set and all that stuff, so we're focusing, well, I'm thinking we're focusing on the EAF for the 19th, so that there's the possibility of starting the lead agency
Secret
process, is that
Absolutely.
right?
That's what it's saying.
Okay, all right.
Remember,
That'd be great.
I know that
Thanks.
this looks daunting. When you take it apart, the EAF contains materials we already were given before. I mean, maybe I'm the only one who read everything before, because it wasn't a real application. It was sort of a workshop application with the rest of the board. But a lot of the stuff that's in there, you will have already seen.
Yeah.
There's been some updates, like I said, for overflow parking and some other stuff, but some of the materials, it's not that you recycled it, it's just that it's still valid and updated. So that's why I was suggesting looking toward seeker as, expanded EAF with particular import to traffic. That's my view. That's how I would try to guide the board. So we'll see you back on the 21st. In the meantime, have a very happy July 4th holiday weekend.
Thank you.
Is that a holiday weekend?
Good
Yes.
summer.
July 19th.
19th.
That's all right.
No, I said in the meantime, I'm sorry, 21st. Today's the 21st, July 19th.
July 19th.
So we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Next item on the agenda, Winnicke Land Trust lot line alteration. We do have some new materials.
Warren has been waiting all night.
Warren, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience.
I learned a lot tonight.
That's good.
Did you? I hope so.
No
So,
Actually, I was interested in listening about the last project because, of course,
I know, you're in the center of it.
remember, I don't work for Winnicke anymore, I don't represent Winnicke.
Right.
But I'm interested in it because
Can
obviously.
you sit in front of the microphone, please?
We spent a lot of time when I was with Winnicke on this
Watch the
project.
other.
So,
No, I just didn't want it to fall on the floor.
oh, okay. So anyway, so that was interesting just to listen, to see the evolution of the project. It definitely seems like it's a better project, though I have to agree with you that
But you do need to sit in front of the microphone.
it's spread out a lot more. I mean, there's definitely more area that's being disturbed, so.
It kept spreading out. That's
It's
part of the issue.
I get, it's a compromise.
So Cynthia is looking for
And the only other comment I'll make about, again, as you pointed out, the trail, I mean, it's really important that, obviously, that the trail is connected, the two ends, and it's open to the public, and
Yes.
that's.
So Cynthia's looking for the revised plans that were submitted. Do you want to go over any of the changes? They're not-
I think that I believe the surveyor responded to all the questions that were raised and
The
any
only,
issues.
the only issue at the last meeting, there were two issues. One, we wanted the county to weigh in on the driveway, but that, we can start our process. The second was that we couldn't schedule the hearing without the application for final plat, which has now been submitted.
There you go.
So we have the final plat.
Yes, and there've been no changes since we reviewed it on June 7th.
That's
that
what I
I'm aware
thought.
of.
So what we're really here to do tonight is to set the public hearing.
Please.
Oh, the chart, right, the chart was updated to fix
The chart was up, as I was saying, when we were sent the changes, he went through the revisions with what they were for. And I thought they were pretty basic. So, and,
I'll have to review it again, the chart.
okay.
Yeah.
But are we ready, think we're ready to set the public hearing? Okay. Then may I get a motion to set the public hearing for July 19th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Sorry, they had to wait all this time.
But you learned a lot.
There you go.
But it's a nice drawing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you very much.
Have a good holiday.
Thank
too.
you.
The next item on the agenda is a request for site plan waiver. This is for replacement windows located at 69 Garden Street. This is in the scenic area of statewide significance. However, it's not visible directly from either one of the historic sites or Route 9 or the river. Anybody have any questions?
No.
We have Ms. Moss's recommendation. I believe this is Mr. Viets.
Yep. John and Dawn, help me with that name.
Smeda?
Schmida?
That's
Major.
that's
Schmaja?
fine.
Smajor.
Smudge, like Washington, like
Smudge.
Mike Washington, Smudge. I asked.
69 Garden Street, site plan waiver. Resolution 2023-36, whereas a request for site plan waiver has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Dawn and John Schmida for replacing 13 windows of the same size on the property associated with a single-family home requiring a building permit, and whereas, therefore be resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the proposed changes as described in the building permit received by the Building Department June 5th, 2023, and per the request of the Planning Board dated June 14th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion?
No?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Next is item on the agenda is another site plan waiver request. This is for roof-mounted photovoltaic panels located at 12 Terwilliger Road. I didn't know actually why this was in a SAS, but it's next to, 12 Terwilliger is next to the drive-in, which is owned by the National Park Service, so it's an historic
Right.
site.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Then I believe this is Stephanie's?
Yep. Thank you. Eric and Michelle Picard, 12 Terwilliger Road, site plan waiver, June 21st, resolution number 2023-37. Whereas a request for site plan waiver has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Eric and Michelle Picard to install roof-mounted photovoltaic panels on the existing single-family home, and whereas, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the proposed changes as described in the request for a waiver of site plan received by the Planning Department on June 12, 2023, and in the building permit application dated May 22nd, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Chris.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. The next item on the agenda is another request for a site plan waiver. This one is for an above-ground pool. It's located at 26 Hyler Drive, which is also in the Mid-Hudson Shorelines District of the SAS. But it's not directly visible from the river, even during leaf-off, I'm told, and from neither historic site. So we have a recommendation from Ms. Moss. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
No, I have it.
Thank you.
Yep, it's Stephen Kosh, 26 Hyler Drive, Hyde Park, New York. Site plan waiver, resolution 2023-38. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives the site plan requirements for the file entitled Koch Stephen regarding the specific request received June 15th, 2023, and as identified in the building permit application dated April 24th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ann. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The last item on the agenda is a request from East Park Deli and Grocery, more commonly known as, am I saying it correctly?
Krausner's.
Krausner's?
With an N.
As an N?
Yeah.
Krausner's.
Not Krause's Candy.
Krausner's, okay. As you recall, we approved a site plan approval for an exterior modification that's going to improve the site. He is still looking for contractors to get the amount within his budget. Hasn't had time to, so he'd like an extension. This requires taking a public hearing. This is we just can't do this by motion. So making a motion to set the public hearing for July 19th.
So moved.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. May I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you to the town board for providing the resources to televise this, even though we weren't magnified inside the room tonight.
Thank you, Tony.
I did have a hard time hearing people.
I did too.
A couple of times.
It was
It was
hard.
hard.
It was
This was a
hard.
very hard meeting.
This was a hard meeting.